deletion. We got that tonight. All right, and then our first order of business would be to approve the meeting minutes from way back May 24th, 2020.
There USB thing for it.
So I would entertain a motion to do so.
So moved. Second.
Everyone in favor?
There's USB.
Anyone opposed? All right, approved. Okay, so the big thing on our agenda is the public hearing for PLN 23-046. We are going to start that public hearing. I just had a couple of notes before we start. First reminder that we're here as a planning commission. Our job is to review this application and the information presented and make a recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners. We are not the final decision body. Should things not throw your way public, you still have another chance to speak your mind. And then, like I said, if everyone can please do our best to take turns speaking. When it comes time for public comment, please address us as the commission members rather than the applicant. And if you would like to speak, please make sure your name is on this sign up sheet. If anyone still needs to put your name on, raise your hand and we can get that sheet to you. We'll just be going down that list. So we will start with a staff presentation on PLN 23-046.
If you all would give us the luxury of a little bit of time, we're dealing with technology here, so hang tight.
I've been there before.
Anyone else need this too? Okay, it does not appear that Zoom is going to work. And we will move forward with the actual PLN 23-046 Blogger. Consider a limited use permit for a medium animal feeding operation for a chicken facility to house a flock of 25,000 laying hens. This project involves one site consisting of 3 parcels spanning between Delta and Montrose County. The project is generally located southeast of Fruitland Mesa Road and northeast of West Black Canyon Road, approximately 3.13 miles southwest of the town of Crawford. And the parcels are listed there. Again, this is 3 parcels, 2 counties. In Delta, it is zoned A35. In Montrose, then you see that there's 164.695 acres. The request is a single family residence, allowed use. And the chicken facility, again, a medium animal feeding operation, limited use with notice. Initial administrative review of that indicated that this would move to the planning commission. You have the access, 40-foot existing access from Fruitland Mesa, and the reception is so noted. Montrose access was issued on July 20th, 2023 for West Black Canyon Road. There is a well permit that is listed here with the respective number, in addition to Fruitland domestic water shares. You look at the vicinity map, then this gives you the approximate location, again, 3.13 miles southwest of the town of Crawford, just north of the Delta Montrose County line. Chris to the rescue, perhaps with Zoom, so hang tight. We'll continue. Next slide, the parcels within Delta County have been zoned A35, as we mentioned. As you can see, there is a portion of A20 that abuts the northeast corner of the parcel. A majority of the parcels in the area consist of larger ag properties with residencies. Next slide. This is the site plan for the single family residence. This does not require a review by the planning commission. However, planning staff wanted to illustrate both the residence as well as the chicken facility in relation to one another. The blue area is the proposed residential site with the dashed red line being the proposed residential driveway from Fruitland Mesa Road. The yellow star is the location of the existing well on the property. This is the site plan for the chicken facility. You can see the red dashed line from the residential driveway as well as the well location. The green highlighted area is the approximate location of the chicken facility. The orange square is the litter storage building and the blue area is the proposed septic field location. The dashed peach color line along the west boundary line is the proposed access from the facility traveling south to the access permitted by Montrose County off of West Black Canyon Road. This is an aerial view of both the proposed residential site plan and the chicken facility site plan, as well as the access down to the West Black Canyon Road in Montrose County. As you can see, the proposed access to the facility travels through the middle of the Montrose parcel, following the terrain of trees and shrubs, as well as the depression, until it reaches the project parcel where it borders the west boundary line of the property before traversing east to the facility. This travel surface avoids impacting the irrigated ag fields, and the yellow square is the area of the existing access in Montrose County. The background medium animal feeding operations are determined by total number of animal units, which are defined in chapter 14, section 2 of the land use code. Chickens are defined as 0.02 animal units. Therefore, 25,000 chickens times 0.02 equals 500 animal units, which falls between the 150 to 999 range for a medium animal feeding operation as defined by Delta County Land Use Code. The minimum lot size required for a medium animal feeding operation is 35 acres. The project parcel is 50 acres. Required setbacks that are affected here are 1,000 feet from residential uses and 100 feet from all property lines. There are no major water sources within the setbacks listed under table 2.B and no public schools. Management plans that are required for medium animal feeding pursuant to the land use code include odor, water, quality, dust, noise, pest, and truck routing. Business plan is that the facility will be a cage-free, non-GMO egg-laying facility that will be family-owned and operated with no outside employment. The facility will consist of a flock of 25,000 laying hens, each approximately housed for approximately 14 months. Once a flock is removed from the facility will be cleaned. It is estimated that 2 trucks per week on average will visit the facility. 1 truck will be delivering feed and 1 will be picking up and hauling away eggs from the facility. Technology will be utilized to monitor water use, temperature, feed consumption, and chicken weight. Specific to odor. Plan requires a description of the plan, technology that minimizes to the extent practical, off-site odor impacts, addressing animal waste, using odor control equipment that conforms to common and accepted professional practices, testing, sampling, and analysis of the operation. Specific to water quality. Water quality is regulated by the state of the Colorado Regulation 81. Water Quality Control Commission includes BMPs, best management practices that include activities, procedures, or practices necessary for the reduction of impacts on surface or groundwater. Some of the practices listed in Regulation 81 are diverting runoff from uncontaminated areas, eliminating slopes, minimizing water storage, decreasing wastewater discharges to surface water, minimizing manure transport to surface water, following setbacks, and utilizing buffer zone. The proposal includes waste packaging and other solid waste being disposed of in a dumpster on site that will be hauled away by a commercial solid waste disposal firm. Specific to dust management, must include all available and practical measures that are technologically feasible and economically reasonable that will reduce, prevent, and control fugitive dust, as well as the materials that are to be used for abatement and control. West Black Canyon Road is a paved, however, the driveway to the facility from the county road is gravel. The proposed dust mitigation plans include using natural products. When there are not available, the applicant has proposed the use of mag chloride on an as-needed basis. Specific to noise. Noise shall not exceed thresholds as set out in statute 25-12-103, maximum permissible noise levels. Where design is not sufficient to mitigate noise impacts, the applicant shall submit a noise plan that includes operational limitations that will mitigate the noise impacts. Commercial uses are limited to a sound level of 60 decibel at 25 feet from the property boundary during the hours of 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. The facility will consist of ventilation fans that are designed to limit noise. It is not anticipated that the noise level from the medium animal feeding operation activities will exceed these limits. The applicant has stated that the fans will be similar to, if not lower than normal conversations, which are measured at 60 to 70 decibel. Should noise levels exceed the threshold limits, noise mitigation techniques such as privacy screening will be implemented. Specific to pest management shall include the type of pest that may be associated with the proposed use. Methods, techniques, biological agents, etc. need to be listed in the plan, as well as the timing of application of the chemicals or agents and the method of storage. It will also need to include the control that will be used to minimize impacts to nearby properties, water bodies, livestock, etc. Currently, the pests that are of concern are rodents and flies. The facility will use only EPA-approved baits. Specific to flies, the facility will be cleaned of litter multiple times a day so that the moist environment are not present for flies to populate. Fly tape will be used in other areas for adult flies. Specific to truck routing will include type or class of all vehicles that will be entering the facility with the anticipated frequency and arrival and departures of trucks. The hours of truck traffic need to be included in the plan, as well as the map illustrating the route. The land use code limitations on modifications for setbacks for intensive ag use. The only way a setback to an intensive ag use can be modified is to process the application as a conditional use, which requires review by the planning commission with recommendations to the Board of County Commissioners for final action. The limitations are that modified setbacks cannot be more than 50% from the required setback for residential uses and not more than 25% from the required setback for property lines. The applicant is requesting a reduced setback from the nearest residence, Knox, of about 950 feet, which is 50 feet less than the required 1,000 feet, as well as a reduced setback from the property line of about 80 feet, which is 20 less feet than the required 100 feet. Neither of these proposed reductions exceed the limitation. Staff does not see any issue with the proposed reduced setbacks. Mr. Knox submitted a letter stating that he was okay with the reduced setback from his residence. That letter was included in the packet. The applicant has submitted other plans that are not specifically listed under medium animal feeding requirements, which include landscape, lighting, agriculture, and fuel. Specific to CDPHE, the Water Quality Control Division. The applicant has been issued a certification by the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment for stormwater discharge construction activities. The total area of disturbance is 1.75 acres. The certificate authorizes a discharge of stormwater from the facility to the waters of the state of Colorado, including the Smith Fork and Gunnison River. It also authorizes activity for residential development, non-structural and other development, and the chicken house. Specific to domestic water, the property has 2 water sources as well as a well was permitted from the Division of Water Resources. This well supports residential use but does not support commercial use. The division stated that the permit needs to be amended to include an augmentation plan that would allow and support the commercial use of the chicken facility. Staff received confirmation from Fruitland Domestic Water Company that the applicant is in the process of purchasing shares from Fruitland Domestic Water, and that there are no constraints on the shareholders' use of water once the water leaves the distribution system and enters the private line on the shareholder's property. Therefore, these shares can be used for the chicken facility. Specific to access. Access is existing from Fruitland Mesa Road through an existing 40-foot access and utility easement. This easement runs through the southwest corner of the neighboring property, which is the Morrow property. Staff has received comments from the Morrows in regards to the access. They are opposed to any commercial use of the access or any amendment to the existing width. County Engineering and County Road and Bridge reviewed the access to Fruitland Mesa Road. They had concerns for both site distance and the ability to accommodate the required road standards, with the biggest being the turn radius. The land use code requires traffic impact studies for uses that require site plans, including limited and conditional uses. County engineer required a level 1 traffic impact study for the access from Fruitland Mesa Road for the residential access. The access from Montrose County for the commercial use is not within the jurisdiction of Delta County as far as review goes. Therefore, Delta County did not require a traffic impact study for the facility. There is an existing easement located on the property in Montrose County where the access was issued. This easement is restricted to utilities, ingress and egress for residential purposes only, no commercial vehicles. Specific to public comments were sent out to the adjoining property owner within a 200 feet radius, generally those properties that are touching the project parcel. However, due to the intensification of the proposed facility, staff increased the noticing radius to 1/2 mile, which included residences in both Delta and Montrose counties. Staff received numerous comments from the public. Concerns included the number of chicken facilities already on Fruitland Mesa, many of them in Montrose County, water supply, traffic, access, odor, flies, noise, and road damage. Staff did receive multiple comments after the agenda was posted. These comments were sent out to the Planning Commission, and staff provided a hard copy to those comments as well. Staff has recommended 7 conditions. These conditions pertain to access, confirmation of the well permit being amended to include commercial use, as well as the confirmation from Fruitland Domestic Water for shares that have been purchased. Dust and noise mitigation and confirmation that the permitted Montrose access is not encroaching on the existing easement from West Black Canyon Road, as well as written confirmation from Montrose County that the proposed location of the access is sufficient and does not require any further permitting. With that, the staff recommends that the PC recommend to the Board of County Commissioners and find that PLN 23-046 complies with the Delta County Master Plan and the Land Use Code for a limited use permit for a medium animal feeding operation for a chicken facility housing 25,000 laying hens developed over 3 parcels spanning between Delta and Montrose counties. That is the staff report, in addition to the packet that was mailed to all of you, in addition to the individuals that expressed concern. The 3 letters that were not included in the packet were subsequently emailed to all of you and provided.
All right, thanks, Robbie. We'll move on to any questions from the commission to the staff about the project. Does anyone have questions yet? If Robbie might be able to.
I have a question regarding fees. I noticed that fees were paid. Was there any consideration about road impact fees as part of that?
Say that again, Steve.
I saw in the packet that all fees were paid. Was there any consideration at all for road impact fees
No,
as part of this?
because we still don't have that in the land use code.
No, but this is conditional use. Still possible.
You can put a condition on there.
Anyone else, questions or staff before we move to a presentation from the applicant?
Do we have any information for the domestic water company? How much a share of water equals it?
Yes, Robbie just got that today, so 1 second.
So, one tap on Fruitland domestic water is equal to 10,000 gallons per month.
Based on a 30-day. So.
Based on a 30-day month,
So slightly.
right?
And that depends on whether you're on a system or whether you're on a tap. If you're on a pressurized tap, it's 10,000, and I think if you're on a system, it's just over 10,000, it's like 10 and a half.
Yeah, it has provide, or like for how many taps?
2 taps for North Rim layers, and then 1 additional tap with 400 shares is in process. And that was direct from the Fruitland Domestic Water Company president.
How many shares? Do we have a calculation of how much shares?
800 shares equal 2 taps. So 400 shares equals 1 tap.
And 2 days on board.
Please refrain from speaking until the public comment period. Any other questions for staff before we move on? All right, so I'll have Mr. Blosser add anything. Blosser here?
Yes, he's right here.
Yes, there you go. Richard, do you have anything to add to the staff's presentation? Or anything you'd like to say about the project?
Think that there's anything that was missed.
Okay, great. Then we'll move on to, questions from the commissions to Mr. Blosser. Anyone have clarifying questions that your staff was not able to answer?
I do. Mr. Blosser, the ownership of the property apparently is in the name of Elk. No, you were Elk Mountain, Elk Mountain Construction. Ownership of the property is North Rim Layers. Can you kind of explain the difference of that ownership? I mean, and how that's gonna work operationally?
It was at the date of the application, when that paperwork was filed. We have since closed on that, and I own the parcel where the chicken house, proposed,
The whole shebang.
the 50-acre parcel.
Rudy, can you get the overhead?
We're working on it.
And you individually, or you as Elk Mountain Construction?
My wife and I.
Okay.
Me and.
So the importance of this in my mind is to know ultimately who we're agreeing to with conditional uses and who's legally on the line to follow that and what illegal entity that is. And it sounds like it's you and your wife then.
That's who it should be.
Well, but the applicant and the ownership were different in the application.
In the
That's what's
application.
confusing.
That's correct. And because of, there were various, time challenged, aspects at the time of the application, that prevented us from, transferring or closing on that property at the time of the application, but that happened.
Okay, when this is said and done, though, it's gonna be important.
Cleared up about who in fact we're legally dealing with here. That would be my only question right now, Mr. Blosser.
I have a question. How much water is required to run the operation?
In the application, I put in a request for a gallon a minute, or perhaps request is not the correct word. proposed that we would be using less than, but up to a gallon a minute.
1 gallon a minute. And that's 24/7?
That would be an average. The reality is more like 3 quarts a minute.
Can you speak to how that figures in or kind of I'm assuming you anticipate the shares that you've applied for through Fruitland Domestic Water and the well permit is sufficient to run your operation?
Well, long term, the well would be more than adequate. That is in the process of working with an attorney to apply for the commercial use. And those numbers were given to the attorney on what the expected use is.
Do you know the output of your well right now? What does it do?
When we drilled it, it was between 20 and 25 gallons a minute.
And you can do 15 gallons a minute?
Legally at 15 with an exempt. With the commercial well, I'm not sure that that's the case.
Gotcha. All right. And then you got the 2 taps too?
Those 2 taps are actually on the parcel to the north that my brother-in-law has. I have only the 1 tap, but I have 3 other taps that I've spoken for that we haven't transferred
Gotcha.
and won't transfer until I know that they're needed.
Yeah. So you're gonna be you're looking to supply this with the well?
That's ultimately long-term. That was the expectation, was that I'm not saying that
Yeah,
you're limited to that and based, you know, if there were reasons otherwise, I would consider using the domestic water.
So you got a good well.
What's the existing ag operation there? What are those?
Pasture or hay that's irrigated.
And what is that being irrigated with? What shares from where?
Fruitland Mesa, or not Fruitland, I believe it's called Fruitland Irrigation District.
And so nothing will change with those shares. Those shares will continue to be
Those shares will continue to be dedicated to the property.
to the pasture, not the chicken operation.
That's correct. That's correct.
Tom?
So I think that the water, of course, in all this operation is, I think, probably one of the largest focuses. You had mentioned that you anticipate a need for your operation of 3 quarts a minute.
That's correct.
So just from some real basic research that I've done for 25,000 birds, I've seen that they use anywhere from a pint to a quart of water per day. Is what they just need to drink. Does that sound correct? Per bird. And that comes to a lot larger number. We're talking 100,000 to 200,000 gallons of water every single month in, a form of a continuous supply.
The barn on Fruitland Mesa Road, 825.23 was 0.047 per bird.
0.047 gallons.
0.047 gallons.
Per bird, per what?
Per day.
Per day? So basically half a gallon per bird per day is what you're saying?
0.04.
0.04. So
Fifth of a gallon.
No, 1/20th of a gallon.
Yeah.
That's 5 ounces of water every day. That seems really low to me.
I don't argue that. I'm just going what the meter said.
Okay. But it sounds like your primary intention is to use the well for
That
the
was
water
my
operation.
intentions originally, and that's why we dug the well.
Okay. Any type of contingency plan if the well doesn't continue to produce the way that you think it does?
Well, that's one reason I bought that water tap,
Okay.
was
But
to
it-
have a backup.
Okay. But it seems like if that well goes dry or stops producing, that those water taps would be severely insufficient to continue your operation.
A single tap, yes.
40,000 gallons per month.
4 taps would give me a gallon a minute, which would be more than adequate. Approximately 25%.
Sorry, then, remind me, the allocation per tap is how much again?
Essentially a quart a minute.
10,000 gallons.
10,000 gallons a month.
Do you have any more, I mean, how much have you dug into the well? Have you, is it, they just, right off the bat, they were saying 25 gallons a minute? I mean, you can only go.
That was, the well hasn't been tested as such. That's what it was producing when he was drilled that well. Essentially when he was blowing his air down, he was blowing up, that 25, and he blew that for hour and a half.
Okay, I imagine you have some questions.
I do, I just want to make sure everybody else, I had more questions about access. Brittany, Brittany, can you put up the county map?
Yep.
County GIS? Your access? I want to get the bigger picture here, because that to me was my issue.
Very Kenzie. No, thank you.
That's not it.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Okay.
You want Delta County?
There you go. That's just fine right there. So everything, the white is in Montrose County, the line across is the Montrose County line. It's not the road. And your access is coming up.
Right.
Okay, we're good right there. Yeah, right there.
Okay.
So there's comments from the Montrose County, I guess, Road and Bridge, that they don't want you to compromise the existing access. Who's the access that they're referring to?
The initial request that I put in, there's an existing gap in the fence.
So you could point to that up
Yeah,
there,
if you
Richard, if you
wanna
want
get
to.
It's not shown on that map. It's further up. That's the county that I am.
Right, you'd have to go the next
You'd have to go to the Montrose County side.
Yeah,
to
so we
show
don't
it.
have Montrose County, okay. I thought we had,
We do have Montrose County
We
hang
do?
tight, yeah.
okay. Then can we enlarge it? Move it up? Other way?
Which way do you want to go?
Well, I want to be able to see.
It's right below that blue 21 is where he's wanting to look at. The blue, now scroll up, page, or take it upwards. The other way.
Oh,
I'm
the other
sorry.
way.
The other way.
A little bit more. Right there. Right where her mouse was is where I had proposed entering that wound that's there. As you can see, there's a gap in the fence. It's less than 100 feet from the home that's there.
On the left or the right of the house?
On the right of that, the house is what.
On
they're-
the right of the house, so near
No,
the
no.
outbuilding? No, the left.
No, the house itself.
Could you point to it?
Yeah, sorry, it's confusing.
This is a home,
Uh-huh.
and
Where
would-
this is less than 100 feet from the home.
And what,
And they wanted it in excess of 100 feet.
so that was, your original idea was to use that access there to
The
go
original
straight.
idea was
You would
to
have gone
use the.
straight down
And to go straight, yes.
and would have,
And rather than impacting the ag, then when that wasn't appropriate and with the way the topography is there, we proposed to go next to this draw that's here so that we don't impact the irrigation as much.
but your preferred was going here.
That was my initial
And the
proposal.
property owner there was okay with that?
Property
And-
owner was
and
okay. It was
County,
Montrose County.
They
that-
rejected it.
Yes. Was there something else that you had?
No, I mean, you created an alternative. My only real question was, do you have access from Black Canyon Road? And you answered that by yes, but they've made it so circuitous that just seems, if you take that straight line, it goes straight down the property line, as long as you had an easement with that property owner, I'm surprised Montrose County wants you to make another cut when there's one there already, but okay. That was all. I just had questions about the access.
So I got a question, so, but that access is not, so your new access over there by the draw is not approved for commercial use, correct?
I believe it is.
From Montrose County.
From Montrose
The
County.
access is.
It is approved for commercial use, I thought we saw a slide that said it was not.
Yeah, I think you're thinking about the one on the north.
Well, that one too, that's-
Or the one next to the house that they didn't want. commercial.
Yeah.
This is the one they didn't approve for commercial access.
okay,
It's a new permit, I understood, do it. And then the one off of Fruitland, you're gonna just use for the residential, or are you gonna use this for residential as well?
I don't expect this to use, no doubt we'll drive out it at some point in time, but not.
But the other one is, which has been approved for residential use with the existing easement you've got.
Essentially, so I don't have a development or I'm not sure what the term is that the county uses in terms for me to develop it.
Well, you need an access permit.
And that access permit, it has
And you'll have
a
to get that, but that's. It seems to, I read in the thing, there was an access agreement with the neighbor to have access there as long as it wasn't commercial.
That's my understanding.
I guess where do we get over into the commercial part, the 2 trucks a week, or what are we talking here?
Evidently.
So we're talking 2 trucks?
no, it's the chicken, the 25,000 hens is.
That was one of the trucks, right? They're bringing the feed to them.
No, that's. what-
So
that's
any
the
traffic
commercial.
related to the chicken house would be commercial traffic.
So if he lives on the property, him going in and out to his residence?
No,
and-
that's that north access that's not commercial.
I just don't think that these have like crazy, traffic compared to like some of the commercial outfits that came through here.
Well, let's wait for that discussion until later, Hardy. It sounds like you do have a permitted access from Montrose County that would satisfy the need for commercial vehicles for this operation.
I specifically told them what I'm proposing to do and gave them that traffic number, so they're fully aware of.
Steve, did you have any?
I do regarding Black Canyon Road. Is that road all in Montrose County, or is there any of that in Delta County?
Some of it's in Delta County.
Kind of meanders?
Yeah, it kind of goes, so when you come off Fruitland Mesa Road and you got West Black Canyon, the first, probably about a mile is in Delta County, and then it goes over into Montrose County and kind of goes around the bend and then out towards.
But then it goes back into Delta County.
Yeah, it does go back.
Goes back into Delta County.
Prior to getting at that location,
Yes,
at that entryway?
yeah, it's kind of like a weird setup over there.
The county lines, actually, because I went and looked at the county map yesterday, because I was very curious as to exactly how that lay. And Black Canyon Road is just on one side in Montrose County, one place. And then as you come around the curve, heading south, past Muckers and places like that, then it's Delta County, and then it exits down to where the reservoir is on Delta County property foreshore.
So I've heard that Montrose County has really improved that road substantially, that
Which
it's in
one?
pretty good shape.
Where's Black Canyon?
Black Canyon Road.
It's a.
Black Canyon.
Black Canyon, yes, they have. Black Canyon going up to the park, it's been very.
That's why they did
Yeah,
it.
they've asphalted that, looks very nice.
To the national,
Yeah.
as
the
opposed
park.
to the Fruit Mesa.
Yeah,
through the
yeah,
reservoir.
the West Black Canyon Road though is all gravel. So
But-
as you get off Fruitland Mesa and you go onto West Black Canyon Road, all of that is gravel until you get to Black Canyon Road.
Well,
Brittany,
and
do you have a map of the proposed truck route?
and just
Or
to
could
clarify,
we
the
zoom out
part, the
and
part
kinda
that has
trace
been
it?
greatly improved is on the way to Black Canyon of the Gunnison
Right, this
National
smells
Park.
like
It is
super
not on
good.
this truck road at all.
No, it's all gravel.
I'm not sure if there
From the
was-
entry point
From the
that we've
entry
just
point,
seen
yes, it's
down
all
to the
gravel.
reservoir is all gravel.
No, no. So the entry point for their new property is gravel.
Don't forget,
And
there's
probably-
West Black Canyon and there's Black Canyon.
Yeah,
West Black Canyon is gravel, Black Canyon is all asphalt.
but your access for trucks will be
Gravel.
On West Black Canyon.
West Black Canyon.
For about, mile.
No,
So
I haven't
it's
measured it. I would say more than half mile would be closer.
And that's in Delta County.
Montrose.
So that's in Montrose.
To help with the confusion.
If we start at the bottom, you turn on to Black Canyon Road in Montrose County. Going out around the lake or the reservoir, it turns into Delta County. It's in Delta County until you get up on top, about the first left takes you into the Montrose County, and it's in Montrose County for the balance of that, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, well, you might imagine where I'm going with this is road impacts for Delta County. I've heard that the Fruitland Mesa Road has in fact been impacted by truck traffic, and I know there's a lot of complaints about that. But I've heard it from sort of an independent source, meaning somebody who doesn't have an axe to grind here, that the truck traffic for some of those egg facilities have made an impact there. And so I'd like to explore some things here regarding the impacts with my colleagues, but we'll get into that maybe.
Mr. Blosser, that's the truck route, correct, in the black?
That's just
The access, that's the access to the barn. The blue is showing, yes, that blue oval at the bottom would show the access point to West Black Canyon Road, which is gravel, and it's gravel to the right-hand side of that page, maybe a little bit more than the right-hand side of that. So it probably close to half mile of gravel.
You know, you are in the process of modifying your well permit to, and does that, are they requiring an augmentation plan for that?
That's correct.
And what water source, are you intending the Fruitland domestic water tap sources to be your sources to augment that use, or what are your sources to augment?
I believe they're augmenting to Mesa water.
So the issue we have with trafficability of the Fruitland access is the condition of the road and the sizing of the road is not conducive to large trucks.
There's one other factor that perhaps lays into that as well, aside from the immediate neighbors' concerns, but the easement is at an angle. So you're hitting the road at sort of a diagonal.
Access to your property.
The access to our property. That creates a dimension that makes it more difficult with truck and trailer.
And that's the reason Mr. Morrow said he doesn't want that to change to a commercial use. With the
I'm not
residential.
sure that it was that as much perhaps as sound and or not wanting.
I'm more concerned about the safety of the road and its surface conditions not being sufficient for heavy truck traffic.
What are you talking about, Fruitland?
A Fruitland access, yeah.
But he's
I mean,
got an access off
Right.
Black Canyon.
Right, understand that. I think that was a recommendation that the commission made, was that the access goes to
The road and bridge.
road bridge, takes the Montrose County Road.
That makes sense.
Simple.
Anyone else have further questions for Mr. Blosser?
Yeah, I have a couple other questions. Where do you plan on having your manure stockpiles on that site plan? And how big are they?
There's actually a building proposed there, a 30 by 40 building with
Okay, and you mentioned that when incineration is not appropriate, the chickens will be frozen and hauled off to the dump, basically, right? And so what conditions present when is that? When is incineration not appropriate?
during fire ban season or a dry summer season where fire would be a concern.
Question on that, is this an open burn chicken incinerator, or is this a contained?
It's a contained, it's an enclosed chamber.
Thank you. I may have missed that in the read.
I'm not sure if it was identified as such. But there are commercially available incinerators for that purpose.
You propose a rendering of the chicken house and says some minor modifications will be done to enhance the exterior visually. What modifications are you considering?
Probably putting a porch, my plan is to put a porch with a shed roof on the front end of it, I'm not sure if I showed wainscoting to that, but I have wainscoting, on the bottom portion of that,
It also says in the application that some reshaping of your ag land is gonna be necessary, which I can see, because so can you walk through what's gonna be necessary? Is that drainage draining south to north or north to south?
south to north.
South to north.
There's a slope towards the north at that, right where the barn is. And so on the south side of that, I don't want water to flow up against the barn. So I'll need to pull some of that soil on the south side of that away so that we don't have water flowing up against that barn.
And then you mentioned that with that plan, some of any irrigated land that is taken out of production in that process will be replaced or developed elsewhere. Can you talk a little bit about that? It didn't sound like much, but is that
The
current?
area to the north of that is
Uh-huh.
all unirrigated,
Okay,
but in grass. And my plan was to divert that or move that.
increase that.
And Delta County is not providing a permit for the Fruitland Mesa access other than emergency use or residential use. Is that right?
Residential.
I thought I saw something in the packet that said emergency use, and then there was questions on what constituted an emergency. If you can't get access off Black Canyon, did that constitute an emergency in a non-emergency sense, you know? Is there going to be definitive restrictions on that? And what constitutes an emergency? You know, hey, I can't get these trucks out on the Black Canyon Road, so I'm gonna take them through up Fruitland Mesa. Is that considered an emergency?
What considerations do you want to put on that?
Sun's on fire.
Within your purview.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it seems like there's a lot of issues with Fruitland Mesa Road. And I talked to the road and John Allen, see them?
Yes.
He said that road isn't deemed to be improved anytime soon, but it's on the short list, but the short list is a couple years out.
Correct.
And so, but he did say it was not in good shape. And so that additional truck traffic, I guess, was, you know, to Steve's point about impact fees.
I'll have a potential solution. I mean, how many cattle pods and all that, you know, do they run that road a lot? I'm not familiar with that country, but is there a lot of cattle pods running up and
No.
down there, dump trucks, stuff like that?
No, not really. In the, during the summer irrigation season, it's mostly just like tractors and things like that. We never had an issue before, I will tell you that much, until the trucks started coming back and forth. There was never an issue in that road.
You say until they started coming back and forth?
Yeah, because there is another chicken barn further down Fruitland Mesa Road.
All right, please refrain public from
Well, he asked
commenting.
me a question.
I understand. You commented first. Please refrain from commenting. You will have your chance.
Hash this out.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Really, Mr. Glasser?
Yeah, Mr. Glasser, yes.
There seems to be an assessment in the community that somehow your chicken barn, let's just say that, will not have an economic impact of great dimensions, meaning that you're not gonna employ other people besides your family, et cetera. I want to explore a little bit about your feed purchasing plan. Where do you buy your chicken feed? Who do you buy it from? Where are these people? Where are these farmers? Could you explain a little bit about that?
Farmers would be Delta and Montrose County. The mill that it's supplying is Olathe area.
So the predominance of your feed is coming from Montrose, Delta County. Is that what I understand?
Well, the predominance is coming from that mill, because I don't control where he purchases it.
And I assume that we have farmers in Montrose and Delta County raising grain for that mill.
I know that there have been.
And is that both organic kind of grain, GMO, both?
Non-GMO is the grain that I would be buying.
You're gonna have a specialty for non-GMO
For
grain.
non-GMO.
I mean, that's gonna be a specialty egg that you're producing, correct? So the economic, I mean, my assumption is you know your feed bill already on 25,000 chickens.
No, I don't know it to the penny, but I do know that it's.
Is it big?
It's more than you and I want to bill out of our grocery bill.
So the economic impact of what you're doing there in terms of agriculture in our area will be fairly huge, just for your facilities. Is that correct? You assume?
Yes, it'll be huge.
Thank you.
Marty, do you have a?
One more question for you, but so what you just talked about, do you have the free range? Are you doing the free range deal where they fence it outside and they go out supposedly so much and you get it by that? One of the one you said, the incinerator, I've been around to quite a few of these, a lot of these guys aren't doing this incinerator stuff. Is there a reason why you're doing that, the incinerator?
My experience has been, it's been a quicker, less impact for anyone around. It's done and it's forgotten.
I hear you. And that would be your only option, or you're not gonna? You don't wanna tie yourself down to that,
I don't
right?
wanna tie myself down to that. My alternate, was proposed in there was freezing and disposing in the landfill.
Gotcha. All right.
Yeah, I have a few questions. Oh, David, are you there?
I am. Can you hear me?
So you're here on the record?
Yeah, I've been here. Can you hear me?
Can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Will you state your name and your district for the record, David?
Yeah, David Merrick, District 3, North Fork.
Perfect, and you are a voting member tonight since Jacob Gray is gone.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Great. David, do you have any questions of the applicant?
I do. I'm still confused about this access after reading the staff report and the material. My question, the Fruitland Mesa access, does that rely on the Morrow, what I refer to as the Morrow easement?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, and the Morrow easement, as I saw in the documents, does not allow for commercial truck traffic. Is that correct?
Is that correct?
I'm not sure that it's listed as such, but that was, according to the letter, the intent.
I think I read the document, and unless I read the wrong document. And Mr. Morrow states that he's not inclined to modify that easement to allow for commercial truck traffic. I mean, that's what I say. So if the existing easement does not allow commercial truck traffic and Mr. Morrow is not going to modify that easement, I don't see how that access will ever fly. The other question has to do with the Montrose access off Black Canyon Road. In reviewing the documents, am I correct that that easement document talks about residential use only?
Correct. Well, David, I don't know if maybe you missed the first part of the meeting and it is a little confusing because you can't see anyone pointing to the screen here. But the applicant has applied for an alternative access off West Black Canyon Road that is not restricted.
Okay, so there's a third access here that does not involve the easement
Yes.
was restricted. I see. Okay.
Approved, correct?
And yeah, approved, applied for and approved.
And approved. Okay, so that's a separate access then. My other question, it seems like, am I correct that the planning commission is requiring, or the department's required a traffic impact study?
No.
Robbie, do you wanna?
When initially the commercial access was being considered off the Fruitland Road, then that was the initial requirement. When the commercial route then became off of West Black Canyon due in Montrose County, that went away.
Okay,
No jurisdiction over Montrose County.
I got you. I think that was my main concern was the access. I'm concerned about the water, but here's my question on the water. This is to the applicant. You've indicated so many gallons per bird, and that's what the birds drink, I suppose. There'll be additional requirements for water for cleaning the facility. Am I not correct?
Quite minimal. It would be if you wash the floor or something, you know, a 5-gallon bucket, or something to that effect. The barn itself in the bird area won't be washed.
Okay. With respect to employees, you've indicated that it would all be family operated. How many family members does it take to run this facility?
There are many of these that have only one.
Okay. I don't have any other questions.
All right. I have a few questions for you, Richard. One is part of the reason we're here as a planning commission, and this wasn't administrative, is the need for the setback amendment. Can you talk a little bit about why it needs to be 50 feet closer to the property line than the standard setback regulation?
It fit into the topography better was one. It was easier and less invasive on tree areas. There's another reason that I prefer to move east.
And then going back to Tate's question about, there's the building of the chicken house itself, and then there's the building of the storage for the manure. How long does the manure dry for? And then do you anticipate outdoor storage of dry manure or compost manure after the drying phase? How much manure can fit in that building? How often will it be removed?
I don't expect to store outside of the building.
Okay.
That should hold in excess of 6 months worth.
Okay. And in terms of dried versus composted, and for kind of public health reasons, even I know it's going to be stored indoors, but will that be considered kind of a finished composted product without a significant pathogen load after that drying process? Or I don't know, I guess just following up with some neighbor concerns about potential contamination of water systems or pathogen load on the property.
In the building itself, the topography will be such that we control any stormwater, any that type of thing. As a dry product with an enclosed building, there's really not the danger of it being a pathogen load anywhere is minimal.
And then are you planning on washing any of the eggs in this operation, or are they all getting transported as an unwashed? Okay. And then you mentioned the preference for using natural products for dust control as opposed to mag chloride. Is that just water? Do you have any other plans?
Potentially water, or there have been some, vegetable oil, soybean oil, that type of thing has been used. I'm hoping that we can manage that with the type of row-based things that it's not
Okay.
needed.
And And then in regards to noise concerns, will there be any limit on the hours of operation when these trucks come to and from the property? Is this something that you can control? Is this something you would be willing to accept as a condition of the approval of this operation?
I don't necessarily manage the pickup times of the eggs. Feed I would have better control of. I don't foresee a reason for off-hour pickup on that.
So you could stipulate that pickup and deliveries are from this hour to this hour? And that would be okay with your transportation folks?
From my side, it'd be okay. I'm not sure. I would have to ask or visit with them on that side. You know, I don't manage that end of it. So for me to, you know, say that whatever makes, it's all, you know, at some point I'm outside my jurisdiction of authority and, you know, maybe I lock the gate and say that it's not available, but,
Well, many neighbors out there.
comment for you, Steve, in terms of feed costs, I did some, not all quick math, but excess of 500,000, but less than $1 million.
Would you give an estimate, if I have your attention, can I do this? Would you give an estimate to the value of your chicken litter that's taken off and applied to non-GMO or organic farms in the soil health or the regenerative agriculture arena?
In terms of an economic value, I'd have to have a little bit of time to think about that.
But it does.
But it does.
It's
yes.
going and being spread on
That's correct.
regenerative farms,
That's correct.
North Fork, all throughout this part of western Colorado.
Essentially Western State.
Right.
When you buy, so you're saying every 14 on your every 14 months, you're buying 25,000 chickens?
It's approximate. That's an approximate thing.
To roll over.
Recently, they've been extending longer than that,
Yeah.
so less frequent than 14.
I'm sure that's not a easy check to write. I mean, that costs a few bucks.
It's like a feed bill.
There you go. There's a little something. Is that a question? I don't know how that, any of that tax, is that taxed or any of that stuff coming in? That's what he's trying to get out of it.
Not as ag animals. I'm not, I haven't specifically investigated, but I doubt.
You didn't get a hold of the dog food guy to sell these chickens to him? That was happening for quite a while.
That has been done for years. Well, not my own, I haven't done it, but a number of them have. They haven't always gone there, but yes. So essentially that would go out to a taxable use from that point.
Any other questions for the applicant?
I have a couple more questions for the county, really. So the decibel measurements that are to be done or guidelines that is to agree to, it's about 60 to 70 decibels. At what distance?
25 feet from the property boundary during the hours of 7 AM to 7 PM.
Okay, and does somebody track that, or is that acted upon complaint?
Similar to others, it would be upon complaint.
Okay, and then this is for this conditional use permit. This is a conditional use permit, correct? For a medium feeding operation, and what you're proposing is about half the permitted use. So you could he double his use over time? Add another chicken farm within this permit to do 50,000 birds or 49,000 birds, which would be just less than 999 animal units.
Per the land use code, if it's an increase of 25%, it comes back to you all.
So he could apply for this, if it were to be approved for 25,000, he could increase at any time an additional 25%. without,
Based on the existing land use code.
and your long-term plans for the facility?
Historically, the market has gone the other direction. There's more and more square feet required per bird in the barn from when they started. You know, my father built a barn like this 18 years ago. His population is substantially less today than it was. More acreage needed outside today than it was then. That's the direction the market is going, not the other way.
But a successful business would potentially look to increase their operation.
That's correct, but my market is, the market for the egg, the dollar for the egg is created with a population rate in the barn of no more than 1.2 birds per square foot.
Right, but you could add another barn. Not necessarily this length, 25%.
Yes and no, but there's also an outside access acreage required, and I wouldn't have room for another barn for that.
And to the final point or question is, so these are cage free, so they will come out of the barn on a
That's
certain
correct.
frequency,
At certain frequencies.
which is approximately,
I'd have to go back and read that there are stipulations of how much outside access they do need or how frequent. I don't have that number memorized there, but I want to say that no more than 120 days through the cycle of the flock. I'm not sure that
120 days over 14 months.
after the break-in period, there's a break-in period where the birds need to be kept in the barn, that there's no outside access, and that part isn't in that. But after that break-in period where the birds become acclimated to the barn, you know where the nests are, know where they're supposed to lay their eggs, etc. At that point, there's a given number, and I don't have that. I'm sorry, I don't have that.
And are
number
they released into
memorized.
that pasture right next to the barn?
That's correct.
You'll have to check with the Delta County Chicken Welfare League.
I'm not going to check with them. You can.
Yeah.
Are we done?
Yeah, thank you.
How many acres of pasture are you dedicating just to this barn?
Approximately 60.
60 acres for this barn for the 25,000. That's correct. And how do you contain the birds, and you have to fence it?
Electric netting or?
A combination of electric and woven.
So that's the requirement for the birds. That's why you're saying if you added another barn, you need another 60 acres.
That's correct.
That's the restriction of what's
Sure.
keeping them from putting a second barn. I just wanted to get to that. You guys distribute, I say you guys, there's an egg distribution facility along Highway 92. Will your eggs go from your facility to 92?
That's correct.
And is that the,
Or direct to the processor.
in other words, they'll go directly, they don't all go to the 92 facility?
You wouldn't necessarily have to.
I see. So that's why I know there's conversation about smaller vehicles accessing the barns to deliver to 92. So then the bigger trucks go from there, which is why I thought it was built in the first place.
Well, it's not just that reason, but it makes so that the various farms with the same type of egg go into the same processing facility can be brought in one spot and then loaded to a truck rather than,
A truck driving around.
truck
all the
driving
time.
and going to here and going to there and picking up a part, loading the part,
Right. Do you know the number of are the existing facilities that are just east of you? Is that right? I mean, if Brittany, if we can go back to the plan. Are those populated at this time?
Yes.
And how many birds are in each one of those?
It was built for 25,000 in each.
And that's what they're populated with.
Actually, they're a little bit less.
But
They changed their program. The flock that's currently in there is 22 and some change.
in each one.
In each one.
So there's approximately 40 to 50,000 birds adjacent to you.
Less than 50, more than 40.
That's what I'm saying, between 40 and 50. Okay, and I'm gonna jump back to the Fruitland access. I went out there and looked, and I drove the Fruitland, and I drove the West Black, and I went to right next to these barns and things like that, and we'll make comments later. I saw there's a gate off of the Fruitland Mesa Road, so there is an access already existing from Fruitland Mesa. I mean, I was gonna drive in there, but I couldn't because there's a gate.
One by default that the irrigator,
I see, it's,
the previous owner had run that with the,
so it just hasn't been applied for with Delta County,
that's correct.
but it's, I mean, if I drove out there and that gate was open, I could use that.
Well, I have been.
Yeah, right, okay, it's just hasn't been authorized by Delta County, but it's an existing one that for this property, they would, I don't see that them not authorizing it because it's for residential use.
Well, remember that there's four corners, four properties that meet there at that gate.
Correct.
And
I saw
so
one road that
I
went
have
through
to
those.
encroach onto one of them or more.
But there's an existing access easement for that. It just,
That-
it only
That's
restricts.
further east by about 50 feet or 70 feet. Now, you can see the wound that's there where her mouse was when I started speaking is where, now that's the existing wound. To the right, about 50 feet from that line is where the easement goes at a diagonal and it meets at the top of that
You
page.
go up and point it out, Richard, I'm sorry. It just, it'd be easier.
I don't have the numbers memorized, but here's the electric pole. The easement is from about here to about here.
That's great.
On the paper,
Am I correct?
That's correct.
On paper, the paper.
On paper,
I
on
see.
paper.
So this is the one
This
that
was,
doesn't follow. the
this
paper.
was access, same owner here as here. Irrigating here, irrigating here. It's easy to go through there with the gator. Is why that wound is there.
If you affect this, are you gonna move it to the paper easement?
Yes,
Or
yes.
are you gonna move the paper easement to this?
No. It's much more realistic to go to this as far as access up here. It's safer. It's.
Right now, the plan is, the plan is to use that for your residential.
That's correct.
Correct, it's not, okay. That was it.
All right, any more questions from the commission to the applicant? All right, so we will move to public comment. A reminder that we'll go one by one through this list. Please, public, address the planning commission with any concerns, comments, opinions about this project. And before you speak, please state your name and address for the record. Maybe we can bring up a slightly wider aerial view for neighbors to point out where they live in relation to the project. And so we'll go one by one through these. Then the planning commission will have one last chance to ask some follow-up questions.
Ask if there's anybody online that wants to comment, that didn't get a chance to sign.
Thank you, Steve. Is there anyone on Zoom that would like to comment during the public comment period that is not signed in yet? No? I'll check one more time before we finish up. So this looks like Pam Jacobus.
I have a little tremor, so my handwriting is subpar. You better
Found ya.
come up there so I can see you.
Sure.
I'm Morrow. My husband is Myron. I just talk a little more in public than he does. And related to what Richard was just talking about, that's our
Could
property.
you go point that out?
Yes,
It's really hard
it is.
from 20 feet away.
So can you make this a little bigger again like you did? Oh. Sorry. So this is our house right here. And this is Richard's property. And where we were just looking at the access, like he said, Zeldentites owned this and this, so they kind of went up and down the corner, but you'd never get a driveway permit for a house on that sharp corner, and it's hilly. So it's at the bottom of two hills and a curve. So the access that's on the plat map goes from about here to like here, like he said. So that's where that goes. And then his driveway for his house would go, I think on this one, right? On this Y. But that's our house right there, and that's the property line. So I'm Pam Jacobus, and we live at 37230 Fruitland Mesa Road. And first I'd like to address the access, which we've heard ad nauseum, but I have a few more things to say. So we remain, sorry, I'm a little nervous. We remain strongly opposed to the commercial access of any kind through our residential land by way of the driveway easement from Fruitland Mesa Road. This should exclude semis, other large trucks, cars or ATVs with work crew, deliveries, trash trucks, and any other traffic, including construction vehicles related to the proposed chicken facility. The new facility has been granted its main access via West Black Canyon. The original grantor of the easement through our property states, she wrote a letter, Charlotte Simpkins, that the intent of that easement, of our easement, was ingress and egress for residential purposes only. This original intent should be upheld and respected. It was intended to be a residential driveway and should remain so for only routine residential traffic and utilities to the home site. There is some discussion in the staff report and the fuel management plan of this driveway being used as an emergency or alternative access up to 12 times a year in the event that Black Canyon driveway or road is blocked or inaccessible. We do not believe that this is necessary or appropriate. In a true emergency, first responders, they don't require easements. They can just go where they need to go. They're free to travel. A blocked or inaccessible driveway should be handled by the property owner. And road closures on county roads are handled routinely by both Delta and Montrose County. County residents do not typically require alternate access easements to gain entry or exit to their properties. In a snow event, for example, it's the responsibility of the property owner to clear their driveway or arrange for it to be cleared. If there's a big snowstorm on Mr. Blosser's south-facing clear flat driveway, chances are it's going to be worse on our northern treed shrubbed property. A road closure on West Black Canyon would affect all those residents, not just the chicken facility. So affected traffic would be routed in and out of their properties by county employees as they routinely are during other road closures and repairs. So we don't feel that it's necessary to have alternative access through our property. Another concern related to the suggestion of this as an alternative access, our property is located, you probably know better than I do, but our property is located between Mr. Blosser's proposed facility and then two other chicken operations. So there's one to the east, which is Knox, and one to the west, which is
Knox.
Oh, Knox and Knox. So Blosser would be in the middle. So if you look, where am I again?
These red
Where did I
squares-
go?
These red
Oh,
squares.
okay. So if you look, here's our house.
No,
Where are we?
That's Knox to the west of you.
Where am I? Okay, so there's Knox and then Blosser. Okay,
Blosser's in the blue.
okay, so Knox, Blosser. Oh, so we're up here. then.
Correct. You're
This
up-
is us.
That's right.
Okay, that's me, sorry. So if you look, there's one there, and one there.
So the one to your right is in the lower right-hand corner of the lower right-hand corner. You see it in the red?
Red box.
You see the
Is
red
that
box?
right?
You know, that's the one to the,
Yes,
that's in Montrose County to the east of you.
yes, but
Okay.
it's It's right there on the hill. It's just next to Mr. Blosser's property. So we'd be kind of in the nexus of those. And we're also concerned that the access on our property might become a tempting like shortcut, which it's already been used during hay season for that. So, you know, trucks, work crews, cars and stuff between the three large facilities. Again, the original intent of the easement was residential, not a through road between the chicken houses. This would even become more of a concern in the event that another chicken facility is proposed on the vacant land across the street on Fruitland Mesa, which is currently for sale. So, a few additional items. It's mentioned several times in the staff report that all the surrounding properties are irrigated ag, we're adjacent, and we're residential. Also, we prefer to have no mag chloride used on our property. It shouldn't be necessary with a residential regular driveway gravel, which is restricted only to residential use. I wanted to address condition number 2, which you probably have there. It refers to the access on Fruitland Mesa as well, surprise. We ask that condition number 2, as recommended by staff, be omitted from this proposal. There is no need to address the residential driveway access except as related to the proposed home site, which is not included in this proposal. The approved commercial driveway access for the chicken facility is via West Black Canyon Road, not Fruitland Mesa. As part of the process for residential construction of their new home, they'll be able to apply for a residential driveway permit. And then condition number 5, I think Mr. Locke, was talking about the noise. The property boundary is pretty much within 25 feet of our bedroom. So it makes a difference to us, this particular thing. In the staff report, it says that noise is limited to 60 decibels at the property boundary. But then later in the staff report, it says that Mr. Blosser indicated that it'll be limited to 60 to 70 decibels, 50 feet away from the facility, and later 50 feet away from the barn when the large fans are running. So it says both of those things in that section. Property boundaries for this project can be more than 1,000 feet away from the barn. So that's a huge noise difference. So we think that 50 feet from the barn or facility seems more appropriate. We ask that you clarify that. As relates to the well permit, originally this application was submitted with a residential domestic well, which you know, and that well was quickly drilled. When I called the planning department to clarify whether a commercial well was necessary, I was told that a residential well was sufficient for this project. I was told that that's how we do it in Delta County. I question the accuracy of this, and it's not to throw anybody under the bus, but I think it needs to be followed up on. I question the accuracy of this, so I called the Colorado Well Commissioner, Greg Powers, who confirmed the need for a commercial permit with an augmentation plan. I then initiated the communication between the planning department and the well commissioner to address this issue. I was told by the well commissioner that I had to initiate it myself because his office is only complaint driven. We did not want to register any kind of complaint. We just wanted this project to be handled properly for the benefit of the public and the applicant. We suggest that there be a review of the other facilities of this type in the county to be sure that all of them are running with the appropriate well permit types and augmentation plans, and that Delta County is in compliance with the Colorado state regulations. The process here has been a little confusing. An incomplete public notice packet was originally mailed to the residents, and it contained no water quality plan. And of course, water is of great concern to all residents on the Mesa and in Colorado. It would be helpful if the initial public notice packets are only mailed out when they're complete. We believe that this would also benefit the applicant to know that their neighbors were receiving correct and complete information right from the beginning. Several public comment letters, which you've heard, were not initially included in the final staff report packet. So I think that you have those now. And, Myron and I agonized and worked really hard on our original comment letters, which you've read. You think about it, you sleep on it, you wake up in the middle of the night and think about it. People work really hard on their letters. And these comments tonight, although I've been a little scattered, we assume that other residents did the same. We trust that this process has been corrected and that you have had the opportunity to review these letters as well as any additional public comments. So in summary, we support the right to farm and ranch. There are many chicken facilities similar to this one in Delta County. We believe that there should be a separate policy and process for these operations and that they shouldn't just be put into the generalized MAFO category. The amount of community pushback, as I was told by some county staff, should not really be the deciding factor when determining whether these applications be decided administratively or through public hearing process. There should be a predictable set of steps with well thought out plans and process for the benefit of the applicants and the public. We know that there have been some recent changes within the county staff, and we're certainly grateful for everybody's hard work on this complicated project. Lastly, we would like to recognize Mr. Blasser's willingness to communicate openly with us and listen to our concerns. We all, including the Blasser family, have dreams for our lives here on Fruitland Mesa. We love our way of life. We don't know what the future holds, but we all want the best for our families and our properties. We want to be good neighbors and we want to have good neighbors. So we appreciate the opportunity to be heard. Thank you for listening. I know it was long, but I appreciate you listening. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
All right. I do appreciate your very well thought out comments, Pam. I did forget to mention that we are going to try to limit public comment to about 3 minutes per.
So yay, I went first.
You win. You snuck in there, but I also recognize that you put a lot of work into that, and it was very well thought out and with a lot of good points. So
thank you.
Myron, did you want to speak as well? Okay. We are on to Helen Groom.
Okay, that would be me.
All right, will you state your name and address for the public record?
Helen Groom. I live at 36965 Fruitland Mesa Road, and I can show you right where that is. And I received the initial letters being a ½ mile radius. This is the curve and the access point we were just talking about. This is the road and our property is here. This is a ½ mile distance here. I've been told I speak softly, so if I am speaking too softly, raise your hand. I will speak more loudly. And I know many of us are of an age where we need supplementary hearing, and I try to address that. I did while I was sitting there, sketch out a map of the route that the trucks would take going across Black Canyon Road, with no attempt to deceive or anything like that. So if any of you are interested, I know Steve had asked about that, and I sketched in, appropriate things if you're interested.
Yeah.
Would you like to see that? Okay. And I used red for the dirt, the gravel part, because the whole West Mesa or West Black Canyon Road thing is pretty darn confusing, I have to admit. And I've lived there for 34 years, and our family has run a cattle operation for the most of that period. As my husband's health failed, we had to lease our land out, and then my son-in-law now lives where I live. We've got an intergenerational household. He runs Rick Ranches, which does regenerative farming and goes to great lengths and very involved in every committee imaginable. I'm surprised he's not here, you know what I mean? But I just want to give you a little background. I taught at Crawford School. I was a principal at Crawford School for 4 years before I retired to care for my husband. I've got lots of ties in the community and all of these gray hairs are earned in the School of Hard Knocks. Aaron Clay once said to me that every property sells at some point. And one of the things I would like to emphasize is my interest in having the nuts and bolts of this tied down, because I found it really difficult to research this whole thing because things were in different names, you know. There was the name Blosser, and then there was Elk Mountain Construction, and there was the later name. And so it was really hard for me to get information because I am not someone who is wanting to stand in front of you and jabber on with hearsay. Okay, so the things I am telling you, I went directly to the most authoritative sources I could find. This map is great for showing things. However, it does not at all address slopes involved. This is a very steep slope coming down here. Our driveway is a much less slope. And if you have had a chance to read the letter I wrote on July 17th, I really addressed that because I even figured out the slope of our road compared to what this road would have to be. I came to the county and got a topo map to make sure I was not exaggerating or whatever. These are north-facing slopes. I talked to Mr. Blosser early on because I was wanting him to know, you know, coming down that north-facing slope on the Fruitland Mesa Road in the winter would be exciting at best. Coming down our road is in full sun. It really, the snow lands in there. It stays in there because of the north-facing slope.
Helen, I'm not gonna cut you off because I know you have a couple points to make, but will you cut to your kind of most essential?
Well, I guess that's kind of some of my essential things is that we are traveling down on the Fruitland Mesa Road, possibly on a place that is very treacherous. I bring up the ownership points because in this, even the access thing with Pam and Myron, you know, things get written down and then properties change hands, and all of a sudden, what does the deed actually say and who actually owns something? And do you have enough water to do this? Because water is just, you know, everything. I don't know where I am on my timing, but the fact that these roads cover 2 different counties, I know for a fact that they are plowed by the counties, and oftentimes Montrose County will plow to a certain point, shove the snow over, and Delta County, similar kind of thing. So it's not always a straight shot access for just flat out coming out your driveway. Is for mine's all in Delta County, but over in the other part of it. Couple of things kind of worried me in this application of the state. It stated that it was going to be a house, some non-structural things, and a chicken house. If we have a chicken house, it maybe could hold 30, 40 chickens. This is a whole different thing in terms of stormwater problems and things like that. I do know about the smell of chicken litter. My son-in-law put chicken litter on our place one time. One time I was coming back onto Fruitland Mesa late at night, unlike my normal thing, but anyway, the smell of chicken litter is horrific, and it is very good for putting on your fields, no doubt. But if people do it, the smell is something else. The variance for the well, I called Greg Powers. He said that's probably a 6-month process. And so to me, there are a lot of things that are just kind of, I don't know, not definitive in this whole thing. And especially like the water situation with the well, it's going to be 6 more months to see if the well can be used for commercial. And then the Fruitland domestic thing, you know, you can say I can lease water from somebody, but if that person changes their situation, you have the water. And I just know for him, I mean, he's going to invest a chunk of money in this. So.
All right, I'm gonna ask you to wrap up.
Okay.
Any last point?
My main point here is I think the planning commission, your questions have been awesome. I'm really impressed with the quality of the questions, the way you've drilled down into this whole thing. I'm not opposed. I mean, we've been in ag these 34 years there. Not opposed to the ag thing. I just want to be sure that all the i's are dotted and the t's are crossed so that when this thing gets going, it can actually flourish and serve the purposes needed and not be a danger to the community. So that would be my main points.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your
Rapid and the work you do for this. This is, I mean, you're saints.
We don't hear that very often.
You may not hear it again tonight.
But trust me, I mean, people who do this kind of work are just invaluable because most people don't want to.
Thank you. Venla Stockdale.
Hi, everybody. I am Brenda Stockdale and I live on 75501A Road. So it's a little road that goes off of West Black
Could you
Canyon
speak
Road.
up, please?
Okay, I'll try and talk. So I live on A Road. So it's that little road that goes off of West Black Canyon Road, right near where the Poolies live. I'm sure everybody knows the Poolies.
And you can't point to it on that map?
So where's West Black Canyon?
Well, it's on, West Black Canyon is in Montrose County.
Yeah, well, a part of my property is in Delta County and the other part of my property is in Montrose.
And where would you be then? So there's the property, there's the county line.
So I am, it's not even showing up here. It's further down. I'm A Road, so it's.
Take it down.
See this?
So this is just the delta, so we can't go,
Yeah,
south.
yeah,
Yeah, it's right there.
yeah. So I'm up there. I've been there since 2005. I do have a letter from Rick Pooley. They had to go to a memorial service, so I thought I would just give it to you guys and you can read that. He is opposed to the chicken barn.
Give it a staff.
So I'm probably going to be a little bit more than 3 minutes, and I think as the public, I should be allowed a little bit of extra time. So I'm going to read this off my phone because I was unable to print this off my printer.
can stand out of the.
Yes, I don't want to be blinded. Okay, so first of all, I'm confused about the ownership of the property. The property was bought by Northrum Layers on May 1st of 2023. The reception number for the purchase deed is 746222. Northrum Layers is owned by Roland Hostetler. Roland Hostetler is Richard Bloss's father-in-law. Roland owns property across the street with separate chicken barns in Montrose County. When the property was bought, the purchasers assured the seller they would not construct a chicken barn. That of course went out the window because they did. Northrum Layers was incorporated in August of 2022. Roland Hostetler is a registered agent at this house on 76528 West Black Canyon Road, across from the property in question. The statement of authority for Northrum Layers, which is only filed in Montrose County, lists Roland Hostetler, Anna Hostetler, Brad Hostetler, and Brian Hostetler. You know who is not a member of the LLC? Richard Blosser. Northrum Layers obtained a mortgage for the purchase of the property in the amount of $1,038,750 on April 28th, 2023, and recorded it on May 1st, 2023 in Delta County under the reception number of 746227. The parties listed on the mortgage are the members of the Northrum Layers LLC. Richard Blosser is not on the document at all. The mortgage is also recorded under Montrose reception number 961379. Richard Blosser filed for his permit in late May of 2023. He had no ownership or interest in the property at all at that time. He is also not obligated under the underlying mortgage. In June 22nd, 2023, Northrum Layers subdivided the property by conveying a quitclaim deed to itself and in Delta County and Montrose County. The reception number for the Delta portions of the now two separate properties are 747216 and 747217. On August 16th, 2023, 3 months after applying for the permit, Richard Blosser allegedly bought the Delta property for $275,000 from Northrum Layers. The deed is recorded at 748339 in Delta. There is no release of the deed of trust or partial release of the deed of trust from the Illinois Bank, which continues to hold the mortgage on the property. My guess would be that the bank does not even know that the property was sold and has another family member. The reality is that this is not This is all just one big company that operates under the trucks operates the trucks and the washing plant on Highway 92 and the individual growing facilities and the sales to third parties, pretending that all of these family-run farms is for appearance sake. They're not family-run farms. It is a huge corporation. And so if you go back and you look at the deeds, you'll figure that out for yourself. Water, primary water source in this application for an exempt well under Colorado law. That means that they are not subject to the rules for diverting water, which are first in time, first in right. Put another way, they get to take water from their neighbors without compensation. The LLC cannot do that. It certainly cannot do it as part of a large commercial operation, which is what this is. Hence the nonsense with the true ownership of the property. Exempt wells are issued for small individual groundwater wells that typically produce less than 15 gallons per minute. They're on small acreage lots and outside of a water utility service area. No commercial use is allowed. The well permit in this case was issued to Richard Blosser back in May of 2023. He did not own the property then. The actual owner, Northram Layers, did not file the well permit application. The application is for an exempt well and is limited to fire protection, ordinary household purposes, and the watering of domesticated animals and livestock. It is not for commercial use. The initial notice said that the Blossers would rely on exempt well for chicken facility. The latest public notice says that in order to allow for use of the water for the chicken facility, the well would need to be updated to include an augmentation plan that allows for residential as well as commercial use. No such application has been filed, nor does that information appear anywhere in the well permit itself. Augmentation plans are only required for non-exempt wells. Again, the application in this case and in every other chicken barn in the area has been for an exempt well. In the interim, the applicant proposes using Fruitland domestic water tap to provide water to the chicken facility. This is nonsense because—
All right, then Linda, I'm gonna ask you to wrap up.
No, because this is my chance to speak and I am going to speak and I'm going to finish what I'm saying because I think I deserve that as a taxpayer.
You deserve the right to speak and we generally allot about 3 minutes per person.
Right.
And
Well,
you
I
have now
haven't
gone over
finished.
by that 2 minutes. I would ask you to, I'm not asking you to stop right now. I'm asking you to synthesize the information to information that we don't currently hold.
Well, that's what I'm doing right now. So who's the owner of the property, number one?
Okay.
Okay. Number two, when we run out of water on Fruitland Mesa, is Delta County gonna hold water up for us? I will tell you that I have already had a well go dry and I had to re-drill a well. The other thing is that within a year for the amount of chickens that he has, they're gonna be using 1,149,625 gallons of water per year. And they're not putting that water back. So what is your plan for augmentation of the water? Secondly, and lastly, the roads. The roads on Fruitland Mesa are a mess. Right now, we have potholes that look like I live in Africa, and I am from Africa, so I can tell you that they look like potholes that you would find in Africa. It's appalling. Not to mention the fact nothing gets fixed up there. It's just like, whoo, let's just make it a chicken ghetto of Delta County and forget about the rest of the people that have to drive those roads. The chicken trucks are not supposed to be using West Black Canyon Road, but they do. I am out in the morning at 5 o'clock in the morning, feeding my horses in the winter, and those trucks are coming down that road, thinking no one's seeing them. The roads this winter were so bad that we couldn't even drive our cars on them. Like a small vehicle, you couldn't drive. You had to have a high-rise vehicle to be able to traverse those roads. It was horrendous, and the county did nothing to fix it. So basically, we're opposed to it. We would like to know what we plan on doing about the water. We would also like to know about the paved roads and when that's going to be fixed. And basically, I will send this to you and you can read through it because apparently I only get 3 minutes as a taxpayer. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll be leaving now because this is all just window dressing.
I just wanted to say that the letter that you provided for Mr. Pulley is in your packet. So this is not a new letter.
And I'm going to forward you all this information because
Okay.
I would like for you to please consider this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
All right, we are on to Jerry and Louise Mann. Do both of you want to speak? One of you want to speak?
Jared.
Okay, Jerry, will you state your name and address?
Jared Neff, and Reeve Neff. We are on 37098 Fruitland Mesa Road. We are in very close proximity to Richard and what he has happening here. I think you'll find that we are right here. This is the border that we're divided. We moved here 12 years ago from Minnesota, where the biggest problem you had with water was how do you get rid of it. We're on a farm there for 30-some years. Now we've learned this is quite a different ballgame in Colorado. Water is one of our concerns, and I think that has been addressed in many ways. We do know that in the 10 or so years we've been there, our spring, which is our sole source of water, is registered as well as 3 ponds. Used to support the 3 ponds plus all of our domestic needs and handle our irrigation. It, as recent years, has dropped to where it's about 1 gallon per minute. It was 12 gallons per minute when we first moved there. Now drought has taken a huge bite, but there needs to be concern for what is happening with the wells. That's a concern. Traffic is also a concern. Unfortunately, we live, I think our living room table is about 50 feet from the highway that goes by, so our kitchen table. And so we see the traffic come and go. And I'll be honest with you, we do see the traffic come and go that's servicing the chicken operations. It's pretty minimal compared to the cement trucks and the gravel hauling trucks and all of the other trucks that scream up and down that road with the Jake brakes on. I would settle for this noise any day over most of what else we hear. I'm not going to take much more of your time other than to say this, that in the many years that we've been married and the different places we've lived, it's always come down to your neighbors. Who are they? Where's their heart? What do they care about? That's kind of what it's been. We're really fortunate we have great neighbors right now. And in all of the interaction we've had with Richard Glosser, he would be another great neighbor and we would welcome him. He solves problems by coming and helping you get to it. What are they? What can we do? He's walked our property with us. He knows what the concerns might be about the water. He's going to help us solve those problems. And if he has problems we can help him with, we're going to help him solve them. That's the way we feel it should be done. The only other partner we really need is you. And in the 10 years we've been here, we felt like you've had our backs. We'd like to see the road repaired, you bet we would. I can see the strain on infrastructure up there. You know, there's only one good way to get all the way around to all of the homes and businesses, homes for the most part, that move on down Fruitland Mesa Road, and that's on that road. Sooner or later, there's got to be some relief to that, and we hope it's more like sooner than later. But that's one of the many problems that you have to deal with, but don't forget about us on that. Keep up the good work.
Thank you so much. All right, Liz Hedrick.
My name is Liz Heydrich. I live in Crawford. I've been a realtor there for 20 years. I started spending my time in Crawford and Delta County when I was 10 years old. I'm 55 now. It is difficult for me to see a community in turmoil over change and growth. I have been the vehicle for a lot of that change and growth through the years, helping people subdivide their property so that economically they could keep moving forward, selling off small parcels, building homes. When I was a young girl, I think there might have been a total sum of 10 families up on Fruitland Mesa, total, like very small impact. So a lot of the people that might complain, whether, and have concerns that need to be addressed are relatively new to our community. We are an agricultural community. I don't think there's too many people here that don't eat chickens or eggs. I drive those roads just as much as anybody else. I can say this and put it on the record. If someone's wanted to put in a chicken facility right next to my house, I have 142 acres on D Road on the other side of the highway, I would not be opposed to it. I cannot come here and stand today and say that I am in favor of it without being willing to have it right next to me. It does, I've been on the properties. I've looked at them. Yes, I've been the realtor. I was a realtor on the sale of this property. I can tell you unequivocally that the lending institution that loaned on this property absolutely knew that he was involved from the very beginning. There is nothing underhanded or illegal that has gone on in regard to the transfer of a parcel of ground to this gentleman. That was always the plan. Is that okay that I disclose that? I mean, that was 100% above board and a vital part of the initial negotiations. And they are separate entities. Initially, Roland and his family purchased the property, but he was 100% involved. It had to happen in order for it to happen. I have a lot of statistics. That property in particular, through our office alone, went on and off the market a total sum of 3 times, owned by Mr. Zeldin Tice. It sat on the real estate market for 481 days. It is not always easy to make a living as a cattle rancher or a hay farmer on Fruitland Mesa. The irrigation water rights are not senior water rights, and in some sparse years, the water can be off in 10, 20 days. This is a viable solution economically for an agricultural practice to happen on the property that isn't prime hay ground. Hay trucks go up and down the road, other vehicles go up and down the road, whether they're hauling cows. It's how you drive that matters. Quite frankly, I am probably a greater danger on Fruitland Mesa. I'm just being honest for those of you that know me and see me. You know what I mean? The distracted driver on their cell phone. I'm guilty 100%. I mean, like, I'm moved at the fear of everyone else. And really the roads do need some attention up there, but Fruitland Mesa Road is primarily in if not completely in Delta County. I sent over a draft of the plan. I didn't come here with any special agenda. He didn't ask me to come here. I came here because I'm a realtor who's made a living as a single mom with 4 children in this community. And I don't feel it's appropriate for me not to stand up for hardworking people that do pay their taxes and do help our community. As long as we're responsible with how it is and honor the neighbors and their concerns, I have to stand up. It's not popular. I'll lose clients 100%. I have and will continue to for years, because I'm taking a stand and saying that I believe that these are vital and important. And that is all I have to say. Thank you.
All right, I have one more person on the list. I can't quite read.
Chuck. You did it again.
That's Chuck.
I'm not speaking. Okay, you just signed
Okay,
in.
oh, you clicked no, you checked no on the wish to speak. All right, is there anyone else in the room or on Zoom that wishes to contribute tonight to the public comment? All right, with that, we'll close public comment. If the commission members have any further questions of staff or the applicant, anything to clear up before we go into deliberation and consider a motion?
Can we ask some questions back to the public who participated, or is that something we should?
Yeah, I mean, I think if it's a clarifying question, that's okay, but let's keep, back and forth to a minimum.
Sure, I'm just simple questions to Pam. Will you be able to see where this facility is? You saw his layout from your house?
No, not from our house.
They're way
They're
up
up the hill.
way up on top.
Yeah,
And-
we would be impacted strongly by semis going across our property because it's
Sure,
right
I
there.
understand the
But
concern.
not the facility and not the homes.
Helen, I had the same question. She's not here. Is she here?
Oh, she'll be right back.
Okay,
She's
I'll
used
ask
the
it again.
restroom.
And Jerry, the same question. Will you be able to see where this? No. You won't even see it. Okay,
Would you mind answering him for Helen?
I'm sorry.
Would you mind answering the question you had about Helen being able to see that?
Helen's further down the road. I don't think she'll see it anyway.
Yeah,
Based on what I saw here.
We can't see her.
This facility is up over the hill from all of you.
Yes.
On the other side of the hill.
It's on the other side of the hill.
In somewhat of a recessed area.
Yeah, I spent a couple hours out there today.
All right, any other questions? I guess any other discussion, points of clarification among us that we want to talk about before any motion is made? Or is it, if anyone's ready to make a motion? David, you still there?
I'm still here. Could staff put the conditions on the screen? Thank you.
So I'll just start since everybody's still thinking and reading. There was a lot of concern with the access off of Fruitland. I heard that sort of repeatedly. And I think I've heard from Richard that he's developed an alternative access off of West Platte Canyon Road. And there is no intent to use the Fruitland as a primary, secondary, other than for the residential. I think you've got documents that say you can't use it for commercial. That never means the truck will never go down there. I think the concerns that they're gonna bring other trucks down there aren't warranted. I think that would have to go through the middle of this property. I don't see he would want that any more than you want it. I really feel like the questions regarding the access, in my opinion, have been answered. I think the spirit of that access off of Fruitland is for the residents. I think he knows that. And I think as many things we could write in here to try to protect it, you actually have a written document. I guess if something was, if you saw commercial traffic, you'd have to take them to court to say you don't have the right. I don't think we can do that for you. A lot of people have talked about the condition of Fruitland Mesa Road. I would love to be able to sit in a position and tell the county administrator, we're gonna make an edict tonight that tells the county they have to fix Fruitland Mesa Road. We can't do that. That's out of our purview. All we can do is adjudicate what we, make a decision on what's in front of us. It isn't the condition of Fruitland Mesa Road as much as we like to see it. I drove it and, it stinks, but it is what it is in Delta County. Yeah, I think water is obviously an issue. I don't know that Mr. Neff's water has depleted as a result of the other egg facilities. So it's hard to determine if it's going to be impacted. But, in my opinion, what Mr. Blosser has done by going and speaking to the neighbors is what land use is about. We have these public hearings to hear from people like Mrs. Stockdale, who maybe didn't get a chance to talk to him and has certainly strong opinions. And that I'm all for these public forums. I think they're important. But to me, the most important thing if somebody's developing something, whether it's a barn or a wedding facility, is to talk to their neighbors. And we've seen many applications where the applicant comes in and has never even talked to their neighbor. I don't see that here. I think this has been a perfect example how land use should go. I'm going to support if there's a motion made to approve it, because I think he has addressed the issues regarding access. We don't have a motion yet. So I'm just saying how I feel I'm going to do if we have a motion to deny it. But I'm sort of making my statement already, if that's okay.
I think so. I mean, I think if you could make a motion right now and we could debate it.
Well, I didn't want other people to be able to talk. We could actually talk within a motion too.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to talk about conditions.
Sure.
I have one to
I'd
add.
like to talk about conditions as well.
Okay. so
All right, yeah,
I'll shut up.
Yeah, I think that'd be a productive way to lead this discussion before a motion. Steve?
I think ownership is confusing, and again, as I said earlier, I think Delta County is going to need clarification of ownership, because as we create the conditions, they have to be with a legal entity that we understand and know and can enforce against. So I would suggest, I don't know the language, this is a, maybe an attorney question, but we need a condition to clarify legal ownership and who we are approving, what entity, what legal entity we are approving this application for. I heard Richard say, no, it's he and his wife, and if that's who it is, that's who it is, but we don't, we just need to have that clarified, and I want to put a condition in there that be clarified.
How, can I ask? How do you?
Well, it's up to the attorney. I mean, if we're signing a conditional use on this application, that's a legally binding document, but who is it with?
It can't
Well,
be
it's with the
transferred.
property owner, right?
Yeah, well, here's the issue.
We don't know the property
Okay,
owner.
let's, one at a time.
Let me add to this
One at a
issue.
time, please, guys.
So I do think the county attorney needs to weigh in for the sake of potential rescindment in the future. Was there a statement of authority provided from the actual mortgage land owner under, at the time of which you applied? Because I can't apply for a land use permit on your property, which is effectively what someone is doing, unless there's a statement of authority provided.
The application was signed by Roland Hostetler, the owner at that time.
Right, so
Are
as
they
long as.
transferable, though? Is that-
Yes, I can't apply for a land use on your
He
property.
sold it to him, can he transfer it to him?
Yeah, but you can't
application.
after the fact. So as long as it is legally.
And we're not hitting on all cylinders around here and it's not us on our end either. I mean, there's a big process.
Someone could come back to the county and say, hey, this person wasn't entitled to apply for a land use application at that point in time, unless there was a statement of authority.
Our administration would have caught that.
So
No,
what happened
Just
was,
recommending us to that.
No, I don't think it was.
what
I
happened
think
was
Steve is
the
correct.
owner at the time submitted the original application. What needs to happen is an amendment to the application to switch the name of the applicant, and I don't know if that has officially happened or not. Switch the name of the applicant from North Rim Layers to Richard Blosser.
There is not an updated application.
Okay.
You have what has been submitted.
So would your recommendation, Steve, be to put a condition on our approval that the application is updated with the current owner?
And I would like it reviewed by the county attorney.
Okay.
It's sort of back to Tate's point, but I mean, this has to be legally done well. I mean, because if it's not, Delta County is in a potential pinch down the line, you are as well.
Yeah, but can we get there without like having to go through this whole thing again, you know?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah,
County
yeah.
attorney and then just, that's a condition and we're done.
Well, I was talking about putting a condition in there, that the attorney look at the ownership issue and figure out how, if it's just a reapplication, then we don't have to go through a process.
There you go, yeah.
That would be fine. I don't want to go through a process, but that we clear it up and we know who it is that are agreeing, what legal entity are agreeing to these conditions and who therefore is the applicant. for
So
this.
would the clarification suffice for you all if just the front page of the development application reflecting the new ownership was put forward? Would that suffice what you're asking for? I want to make sure I'm clear too.
If it's acceptable to the county attorney, I would say yes.
Yeah, I would say, Robbie,
Me without.
I just think when we issue a permit, what we do, that it matches the property owner's name in the county assessor. I mean, if those two are the same, then I'm okay with it. I don't know they need to fill out an application. We're gonna issue it whether we do, or we're gonna deny it whether we do. But if those match, and that's fine with me.
See, let's take it a step further. I think the county needs to make sure that it is avoiding any issue by making sure that the legal process was followed. When a land use applicant applies for a land use permit, they can't do that to somebody else's land. And even though that land transfers at some point, they can't, I'm sure that the county attorney would want to review
But
that.
Mr. Hostetler signed the application because he was the owner.
Yeah.
Right, that's right.
He did.
And that's a
But now
step.
there's an application signed by Mr. Hostetler on land that Mr. Blosser owns currently, so there's still a
Sure.
mismatch.
Well, if the county doesn't wanna review it, then that's fine, but I agree with Steve. that
Do
they
we
should.
think that's a condition of approval or just a recommendation we forward?
I think it's a condition of approval to have that step in this process, yes. That's our kind of
binding.
pitch here. We're putting conditions on this, and this is
Matt,
frankly
did
an
you have
open
another
question.
condition you wanted to?
Yes, I did. I agree with what's been said about the legality and who owns what and who we're permitting here. I would say that we strike item number 2 on the recommendations about Fruitland Mesa Road and say that the access will not be, commercial access will not be granted off of Fruitland Mesa Road.
That's not what condition 2 says.
No, it just says it will be built to those standards. So why do we even have it?
Well, we have, every access in the county, residential, commercial, has inherent standards that the road and bridge has to approve, or sometimes the county engineer. And so those are sight lines, culverts.
Yeah,
those
I
types of
understand
things.
all
What is
that.
that redundant?
The
What is
issue,
condition?
the issue is they don't want a commercial access off Fruitland Mesa Road.
This
This
isn't
is
a-
just stating for the residential purposes only.
And if we could
That's
do
right.
access to Fruitland Mesa Road for residential, we could put that in there, if that would help with the
Okay,
clarification.
the
think it
access
would
to
make
Fruitland
people
Mesa
more
Road shall
comfortable.
only be for residential purposes and constructed by.
It's-
County road
It still has to be
It's a little
constructed to
dicey
the
when
county
you see a guy
standard.
that's running
Every
a
access,
farm.
every
I mean,
driveway
it's
has to
one
be
guy,
conducted,
like a couple
constructed to that
So
standard.
we're not hearing the point here. The point is the community does not want a commercial access to that piece of property.
This does not provide that.
Then let's strike it.
No, it had, the driveway, every driveway in the county,
That's irrelevant. Every driveway that gets approved has to meet the road and bridge standards,
that's,
period.
that's true,
That's for every road.
right?
So the issue is not really that. The issue is commercial access off of Fruitland Mesa Road to Mr. Blosser's property.
Which is not happening.
Which has not been approved by the county.
Correct.
I think you're kind of both saying the same thing.
Just a different
That-
way.
Yeah, I guess it doesn't have to
Yeah.
be a condition.
Yeah, just say
It has
strike
nothing
it.
to do with the
Strike
land
number
use
2.
permit.
Matt, do you think we need to add a specific condition saying that access, commercial access will not be allowed? Or do you think the details of the easement that currently exists and
Well, I
the
think
road
that-
standards are gonna handle that?
That the Montrose County access be the access to the property,
Commercially,
the commercial access to the property.
yeah, it is stated throughout the application, but I don't know if it needs to be a special condition that says that it's for residential use only for the access to Fruitland Mesa.
So I would just say that the access needs to be through the West Black Canyon Road via Montrose County. And I would
Do you think that-
strike number 2 right out because it's redundant. It's language you don't need to have there.
And do you think we need to add to condition number 7 that specifies? Do we need to add
Well-
something to number 7 that says access to the commercial chicken facility shall be through the Montrose West Black Canyon access?
Can you get 2 accesses? Like, is it it's one property that this is all on? One parcel?
There's a Montrose parcel and a.
Yeah, but
Delta
can you
parcel.
get 2 accesses like that, a residential and a commercial?
I mean, it's got a permit for Montrose County.
I know,
I didn't
but
see
can
the
you come
permit
back and
say
get
commercial.
The same property? Oh.
Does the permit anywhere on the Montrose permit say anything about commercial use? Cause I couldn't find it.
They would consider it an ag use.
They don't,
Okay.
if it's ag, it's ag. and
Commercial,
Got
it's
it.
just ag.
The condition number 7 requires that we get documentation from Montrose County proving that it's a sufficient access. And doesn't require any more permitting.
So there probably does need to be a condition that specifies the access to Fruitland Mesa shall only be used for residential access.
That's what the easement
That's what the
agreement
Yeah,
says.
easement
that's
that's on the
already in
plat
place.
says.
Why do we need to say
That's
it?
what the plat says.
What does the
Sorry
plat
to
say?
speak
It's,
out.
it's a recorded document. We're just repeating
That's a
what's already
residential-
But the
recorded.
plat,
And it's a-
let's listen to Pam saying,
It's an
Sorry to
agreement
cut
between
you.
2 private parties.
We, on the plat map, which is recorded, it just says 40 foot, and I hate to out this, but It just says 40-foot access and utility easement. That's the whole situation. Now, Mrs. Simpkins, who was the original grantor of this easement, wrote the language on the other easement that you were talking about. And she says in her letter, which is notarized and you have in your packet, that the language from that easement should have been on this easement. And her husband's original intent on our property was that it was not for commercial, and she states clearly in her letter that that language should have been on this. It was an omission at the time, but she's the original grantor of this easement.
So
So it
why
sounds
not-
like a
why not add
condition
the
would
clarity?
be, yeah, a
I mean,
condition would
it's
be
just-
helpful.
The county engineers and the road and bridge were pursuing that. So just add it for clarity.
A condition
Yeah,
that
the
says
condition.
access to the commercial facility shall only be from.
Or I would just say that the access to Fruitland Mesa Road is for residential.
Because they go out there and say this
Okay.
doesn't pass, or we don't like this, or it ain't gonna work, and then.
But if it's for residential use, it's for residential use,
What if he
correct?
says it doesn't work for residential use?
Then that goes against this whole agreement.
For the residential, yeah, but that's not our.
You're saying
our
if
deal.
Road and Bridge says this access doesn't even work for residential, like it's not even viable at all?
Well, that's the way it's gonna work, right? If he goes out there and says, this is too steep, there's a corner, they got requirements and we don't like it. And we're sitting here saying it's gotta happen for residential.
They've
Well, it
already
can
approved
only
that,
be
haven't
used for
they?
residential.
Can
use.
only
It
be
doesn't
used
have
Road
to
and
be.
bridge.
It's still access
Approved
as
as
a
a residential access.
What's that?
I mean, there's nobody here fighting,
It's-
saying they're
it's
gonna bring that
already
into
permitted.
commercial. They're not saying that, they're not saying that it's gonna be. used
So
for
then put
commercial.
it as a condition. That's been.
So I guess the
one of
question
the
is,
biggest
do we need to
hangups.
put the condition in the basically affirmative or negative? Is access only for residential or is access on Fruitland Mesa, or do we need to talk about access for the
I think Montrose
the-
County's gotta figure it out.
chicken facility?
They have.
Montrose County took care of that. I think that it should be clarified.
What does this have to do with a residential house that he might build, might not build? You know, I don't really know. He might change his mind, not build a house for next week and we're.
Fine, he doesn't have to build a
I
house,
think
but
the
if he
intent-
does build a house, then the access would be for residential use.
It's
Okay, so
already that way.
Tate's,
I don't think it
Tate's,
is.
well, Tate's suggestion is that we add a condition that specifies access to Fruitland Mesa Road shall only be used for residential purposes.
And what would be the reason not to add that condition?
I don't think it has anything to do with this chicken farm or this, I just don't see what he does residential wise has anything to do with.
So
what we're
then
dealing with.
he could use that access for commercial use, if we don't put it as a condition.
No, he can't.
The
No, he
deed
can't,
doesn't
other than-
specify it.
Other than he's the same guy that's running the chicken farm and it's him, and
Why
he's going
can't he?
home and he's going to his chicken farm. You know, we're talking about 2 trucks a week, is that what he stated, give or take? Double that to, you know, double that, we'll go 4 trucks a week are gonna run down this other road. That's what they said. Other than that, it's him and his family going to school, you know, he's
No
gonna
one's
run it.
That's what we're
preventing
trying
that.
to,
No one's
that's what
preventing
we're
that.
trying to
What are you
approve.
even talking about?
What I'm talking about is, it's the same guy running it from both ways. So why would he bring a semi truck up through this easement that they've already agreed to? Everybody here has agreed to.
Because he wouldn't do it, because it's a condition of the use.
It's
He
a
ain't gonna do it
specification,
because
or
he
what
said
if
he ain't gonna do it
no,
right now.
but what if he sells the
when he sells
property?
it?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't see it. being
Well,
that way.
you, okay, this is the
Get after
condition
it.
you're suggesting.
I
If someone wants
don't,
to make a motion that includes this
Make
condition,
a
we
motion.
can
Yeah.
debate that.
I think
So,
that's what I was
I
trying
have
to
one
say.
question that's just for clarification, so I can wrap my head around this, and I'm sure there's a number of members of the planning commission that can answer this. How do you augment use of water consumed on Fruitland Mesa with water out of Blue Mesa?
You buy an augmentation plan, you just pay for that water.
Yeah.
Right, but I think
You can augment water from any basin if there's augmentation water available, and there is from Blue Mesa. I've done it at my place.
As long as
But
it's
if
got-
this well use or this commercial use ends up depleting water available from everybody else, there's no augmentation that occurs.
Yeah, your augmentation is just replacing water, not necessarily in the location that you're using.
That's just interesting.
So back to what we were discussing.
So Richard would like to answer it.
Can I interject my thought on that?
Sure.
My understanding is that would replace a call that someone senior downstream, if they was calling on something, that amount would be called off of Blue Mesa instead of off of Fruitland Mesa.
Same thing with shrink and all that stuff, it's the same deal.
I could be wrong, I'm not the authority on it, but that's my perception.
Augmentation is exactly for that, it can be in any basin, from another basin.
Can it go outside the basin?
Well, Blue Mesa is part of our.
State
basin.
law.
I
Blue
mean,
Mesa,
Blue Mesa is
whatever
part of the
the
Gunnison River
Basin.
Basin.
Yeah, we
I
can't
don't think
augment-
you can go
we
outside
can't
the
augment
basin.
From Colorado, that's,
Yeah.
we're just talking about, sorry.
I think it would be 15 gallon if they were saying 25.
So back to what I was trying to get to is that residential access only off of Fruitland Mesa to that said property.
Correct, that's what.
Okay, so
You're not opposed
that
to
would,
that, right?
that would keep condition, recommendation number 2, and just clarifying it as a residential access, putting residential access to Fruitland Mesa or residential only access to Fruitland Mesa shall be constructed to county standards in the story.
Well, that's.
No, wait, no, Matt's suggestion is not that. Matt's suggestion is to strike number 2 and add a condition, along with Tate's recommendation, add a condition that says access to Fruitland Mesa Road shall only be used for residential. Is that accurate? Or replace number 2?
Yeah, I mean, I think number 2
Hey.
could stay.
Hey, Hardy.
It said residential.
Number 2 could stay. He's agreeing to the condition
Yeah.
that says access to Fruitland Mesa Road is for residential use only. And if he never builds a house there, then he doesn't have to use it.
But here's what I'm trying to say is, what is the farm called again?
I'm not sure as such that, on my parcel, I have a farm name, my brother-in-law.
Okay, you put that name on your truck, right? Say it's on your truck, you have to, if it's a commercial business, you have to have a US dot numbers and stuff on that truck. You're going home that day in that truck. And next thing you know, you're gonna have a call that says, that's a commercial vehicle going home. But you're going right back.
No,
You
because
gotta go
he's
back there.
going
It's a
home.
commercial vehicle. You guys.
But
That's-
it's a commercial use.
So you think the access should be open for commercial use? I
No, I'm
disagree with
just
that.
saying,
I'm
he's
saying I
gonna have to
disagree
go
with that.
park his commercial truck, just like I do
No,
at my
he's not.
shop, and not be able to take
No,
it
he's
home
not.
if you restrict it all the way down to that, to no commercial use. That is commercial use. A
That's
commercial
routine
vehicle.
residential.
Look up what commercial use is.
That's routine residential going home.
Okay,
I disagree. I don't,
Look
I
up
think
what
that it should
commercial
be for
use is.
residential
Every
use.
commercial
He's
truck should
agreeing
have
to the condition.
I understand, I'm just saying, if you wanna play the game right, Tay, you know what you're doing, every truck you own should have Christie Mead on the side of it, and it doesn't.
That,
There's a line there, you're crossing.
but,
No, I'm
but
not
Hardy,
crossing
if,
anybody.
if Tate
No, I'm not.
drives his
We'll see.
work truck home and parks it in his
right, I'm
parking
using it
lot
for
of
residential
his,
purposes. I'm not
his
hauling
subdivision that
equipment
only
in
is.
and out of my,
I disagree.
well, we can disagree. But that's the condition that I would
Pretty
say.
heavy-
That is
I got
the
a pretty
condition that
heavy
Tate
outfit
is
that runs
suggesting.
around and I know
Would
exactly how it's
you,
supposed to be.
you can set forward a motion that doesn't include that condition, or you can vote against that condition if we
Sounds
take
good.
this to a motion.
Right, so I,
Any other conditions we wanna talk about?
yeah, number 7.
He's
Uh,
already,
Sorry, number 5. It says that the sound levels should, from the property, sound levels at 60 decibels, 25 feet from the property boundary during the hours of 7 AM to 7 PM. But I don't think, I think it should be 24/7.
Yeah.
Cause at night you shouldn't be able to ramp up the operation.
I would agree with that.
Is that amenable to you?
Yeah. At night it's cooler.
Right,
One of the
but it
reasons
doesn't
the
say
fans-
that here.
Right, but, at night fans will shut down and probably totally stop.
Sure, but there, when you sell the property, someone could buy and say, I'm gonna ramp this thing up at night, and we're gonna crank out some eggs or whatever.
We'll have something to do it at night, and I'll run through the
Chickens go out
night.
at night, I don't
Who's
care what
gonna
it
hear
is.
it that far away?
we're gonna.
So that
Just
recommendation
for
would be
clarification, that exact language is coming out of statute, so that wasn't,
Well,
The
there's nothing to
operation-
cover that.
yeah.
right, I'm just letting you know that's where that came from.
And we haven't talked about putting any business hours, cause I think it's a one-family deal, I don't think we really need to add business hours of operations like we've done
That's
sometimes.
another.
So do you
that-
wanna
that's what
strike
he's talking about.
from condition number 5, just during the hours of 7 AM, just
Right.
just strike that
It
part?
should say decibel levels should not exceed that decibel level at the property boundary line or 25 feet from the property boundary line. Period.
Can they do
Cardi,
that, or
can
will it be
you-
a change of an ordinance? We'll look. Okay, clarify. Thank you.
Party, is there any other conditions that you would like to add or conditions that you would like to?
No, I'm
amend?
kind of all about taking away all the conditions and taking away all the rights of the people that like this whole boy just said, in our own community, we'll deal with it ourselves. I'll help you, you help him. And then we're in here like putting conditions on how everybody does everything. I'm against all that, to be honest with you.
Well, then vote that way.
I'm good. We can just put a vote.
Let's
All right,
go
does
on.
anyone
Let's
wanna
Let's do it.
make a
I
motion?
got it.
Okay.
Yeah, he wants some impact fees.
Uh,
Throw them in there.
In 19, I've forgotten when it was the Knox facility a few years back that we approved. There was something that we did not do, that was a mistake. And we've sort of rectified that on conditional use permits on other kinds of facilities since that. Namely, the solar farm east of Delta and a concrete batch plant east of Delta, where we in fact, as a conditional requirement, required road impact fees, transportation impact fees. And we don't have it in our statute to be able to do that on any kind of basis now, other than the conditional use permit. Given everybody's testimony, and everything I've heard about Fruitland Mesa Road and truck impacts to Fruitland Mesa Road, I still think some consideration, even though this is specifically not, no, it's not specifically, it's not supposed to be Fruitland Mesa Road, but this is Groom's map that she gave me. Frankly, shows an interconnect between Fruitland Mesa Road. It's called, I guess, West BCR.
Black Canyon
Road.
That is gravel, kind of from your driveway, and you talked about that, going up to Fruitland Mesa Road. And it's conceivable that you're going to have truck traffic serving other facilities that could come down that road to your facility. No?
No. What other facilities?
You're the one that says you don't make the decision about that.
That's correct.
They come into your
That
place.
conversation has happened previously. And that was something that was brought up at the Knox application. And there was a comment made tonight that through off hours, middle of the night, that somebody's sneaking.
No, I'm not talking about that.
But that's the road.
That's the road that.
That's
that
the
person
same
was
road
talking about.
that we're talking about, the same road.
Okay.
I actually specifically asked, today was the first that I saw some of these comments. And that was one that raised questions. I specifically asked, and I know that there was an accusation made some months ago of a truck that has traveled that was serving the chicken facility. It was pursued, and the traffic was a Foster Farms truck with no connection to the facility. So, yes, I don't regulate where they drive, but I do know that they're specifically told not to drive West Platte Canyon Road.
Okay.
On
And
the,
your exit route is on Black Canyon Road to the east out.
further south and east of where we're talking. Same road.
So if your primary entrance for the commercial traffic is on Black Canyon Road, right? Is that-
That's
West
correct.
Black- And
But
then you're going,
But the Knox facility.
I know, I'm only asking about your traffic that you're anticipating for your trucks would go down West Black Canyon. You're not going up to that cutoff to Fruitland Mesa. Is that your truck route? This is what Helen. It doesn't mean that you're using it. Are you? I was told you were coming
You
in.
guys are talking about something beyond what I'm talking about. I'm concerned about road impacts. And Hardy is right. I'm talking about here the potential for road impact fees or a payment upfront, frankly, letter of credit to Delta County that would be established to offset road impacts due to impacts from the truck traffic to your facility. That's what we didn't have for Knox. We should have. had it.
Steve, did you, between the last time we did this, have you came up with any kind of a format, how you put these on every one of these? One might impact it extreme, one might impact it at all. I mean, and you're just saying, do you have a platform that you're working off of that?
I don't have, if you're asking if I have a formula.
Yeah, what's
for
your formula?
costs, I do not.
Well, tell me
What I do
50%
know is that we
ones
need
we've
it,
done.
because it happens, and our master plan, if it said anything, it said the costs of growth should pay its own way.
If you know.
And we are
what the
having
cost
a
is.
huge problem in Delta County with road impacts, cost of growth on our roads. And our fees for that are not paying their own way. And my view is that anytime we have a chance to link road impacts to some fee, that we ought to do that.
Crazy.
Because our master plan says it, you can call it crazy or not.
Well, come up with something viable that I can listen to, like, be like, this guy's gonna do 2 semis a week. We got concrete trucks out here that the impact you put on it is like very minimal to what's going on. You're way off on that one, right? We're eating that one right now. Do you not agree with that?
No, I don't agree with anything you said.
Steve, do you have
Cause you know what you're
language?
talking about, Steve.
Steve, do you have language for a condition that would address this concern?
Yeah, my problem here is that the majority of this road ostensibly to be used to get in here is a paved or a improved, pretty good condition, much in the Montrose County Road. And to say that there's a nexus, and that's an important part of this, there's a nexus between the impact of the fee of the impact to the entity we're putting the fee onto. So that's the problem, not what he's talking about. I mean, but I really believe, and I'm gonna throw it out here because I think we'll be back at this, or the planning commission will be back at this. I'm thinking about something like a $5,000 road impact fee payable to Delta County on its discernment, its discretion on impacts to any of the Delta County roads linked to truck traffic to this facility. So that there's a specific dollar amount for impact fees related to this development. And I'm saying this because I think it's a policy that we need absolutely to pursue in Delta County in many different ways, including the subdivision process, Liz. I mean, we have the subdivisions that you were talking about. These are the things that are causing these impacts. And we don't have a mechanism in this county to capture that cost of impact and to share it. I mean, to really have the impetus for that, to help pay for that. We're all paying for it, from the west end of the county to the east end of the county. And so I think that is a major policy issue.
Okay, so your suggestion for this application would be to add a condition that would include an impact fee of $5,000 for road damage related to the construction and operation of this project.
Yeah, as a letter of credit or a something like that would be established.
Go ahead, Todd.
If we are not granting access to, as it pertains to this land use permit within Delta County and forcing him to access his property in Montrose County, do we have any right to it?
No.
No.
We don't have.
And
this program.
Steve,
We're not
I don't
letting
think-
him access his property.
The road is in Delta County.
No, it isn't.
No, it isn't.
Partly it is.
Part of the trucking.
But I don't think,
Less than a
here's the
mile.
deal, the batch plant was.
I got
a
you in
different-
Drew's map.
Hold on,
Well, I didn't get to see the map.
let me shorten this a little bit. I don't think, Steve, that we have anything.
Is this not Delta County?
This is the reservoir.
Listen,
Well, it's up to you.
listen.
Someone wants to make a motion right now.
Here. Steve, let me just ask this. I don't think we have anything actionable
let's
in our
let's
code.
regroup.
Yes, you have.
Hey,
Well,
guys,
This one, I don't think, I mean, there's a lot of
Well, you
hay
can
trucks
vote
out
no.
there.
okay.
But we do have it in our code to people. to do
Okay,
this.
Steve, would you like to set forth a motion that would include this condition? Or does anyone have a motion they would like to?
I'll make a motion to approve this application with staff recommendations 1 through 7. With an additional condition that we clarify the ownership entity prior to issuing a final permit. And that we include language in our final thing that stipulates that Fruitland Mesa Road will any access that gets developed off of Fruitland Mesa Road, whether it is or not, party's not here, For strictly residential.
I think we need to change that because
Well,
everybody
I'm
else.
making a
is-
motion.
Yeah.
You just made
I'm
a
making
motion.
a motion.
Make
You just, if you wanna change the motion, change it.
Okay.
But let's,
Got it.
let's get approval or discuss it, because we're going around and around. So I've made a motion
Okay,
to approve it with the 7 conditions in the additional of the clarification of ownership and language regarding Fruitland Mesa Road being only for residential use. That's all.
and
That's
what,
my
and
motion.
what about hours of operation that take?
So I.
It's not hours of operation.
Or,
No, I looked it up in the statute, it's in statute, so
okay,
you wouldn't remove that, because that's already in statute.
We can't change
Yeah.
this.
okay.
So those are my
So-
conditions.
Conditions as set forth by staff with the addition of a clarification of ownership before approval, the ownership matches application, and an additional condition that stipulates access to Fruitland Mesa Road will only be used for residential.
Yeah, and ownership that needs to go to the county attorney.
I didn't make that motion.
I would,
I don't need the county.
It needs to go to the county.
I don't need the county.
Well, I don't care if you,
so
do.
here's,
Delta County does.
That's his motion.
Okay,
Motion.
there's a motion on the table.
I
Is anyone
second.
seconding?
I second.
Take seconds.
Let's
All
vote.
right, let's have a
We can
discussion.
have a,
Alright, so I have one question. Are we still striking number 2?
No?
Okay, fair enough.
I think it's superfluous, but that's okay. I have, after consideration of residential access on Fruitland Mesa Road, what do we say to all the other residents that run cattle operations or goat operations or hay operations using Fruitland Mesa Road for their purposes, and we restrict him?
You say we're trying to take all your rights.
So the county engineer weighed in on this in the application, you read it. And they did not,
They don't think it's feasible.
right,
Yeah.
so we're not gonna override the county engineer, or I don't think we should.
I think.
And
it
the
should
road,
be
the
up
road
to
and
the
bridge
engineer.
foreman,
I think it's.
and I spoke with him today too.
That's his job.
They weighed in and that they both were not amenable to that commercial access off of, in that access point. And specifically, that deed, and the backup language of that easement should be, have some historical prevalence with that control of that access, going through the neighbor's property. So,
Why are we still talking?
We're not saying it doesn't.
and furthermore, the
Yeah,
applicant
you are.
also
We're just
agreed
saying
to
we
this
shouldn't put it on
condition.
here as a condition. I'm saying it is what it is. You're not
Okay.
changing it. I just don't think we should have it on a condition.
Okay,
I'm not
so
saying.
you
it shouldn't
can
be anything
reflect
other
that
than
in
what's
your
there.
vote when we come to a vote. Is there any other discussion about the motion as set forth by TK?
One second.
All right, shall we call for a vote? All those in,
Only on the conditions or on the whole shoot match?
on the whole, is it approval of the application with conditions
These are
as
separate
amended?
kinds of things.
Seven
why I don't
conditions.
like
You got the
it.
conditions.
Approval
I
of
don't
the
agree with some
application
of
with
it.
Yeah,
the
you should.
That's what we've been
Well,
discussing.
We should
he
be
made a
doing this
motion.
differently.
Yes,
a specific motion with the specific language of the conditions. And so that's the motion we're discussing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're approving the application. For
He
the-
made it on the
For the, for
Right.
the, chicken- for the chicken.
so the
facility.
conditions aren't separate.
okay.
No, I'm saying
No,
they're
we don't.
together.
So you're saying it's together or
All
separate?
those in favor
Should be
of,
separate, but
It should
it's
be
together.
separate.
well, you can vote accordingly.
Right.
All those in
Why can't we just-
favor,
You can't.
Hold on,
But that's what we're doing.
clarify what, there's some confusion
Yeah,
here.
there is confusion. So we're voting on passing this chicken house with those conditions.
TK's motion is to approve the application with the conditions set forth by staff and amended language.
We can't vote just for the record, the conditions, and then vote on the pass?
You can provide, you can
You can
make a
vote nay and
separate
make a second
motion.
motion.
You can
or
make a
make a-
Yeah,
separate
that's the
motion or ask TK if he wants to amend his motion.
Well, TK, I'd like to amend your, or talk to you about amending your motion, because if I don't wanna vote for this because of some conditions, but I do wanna vote for it. I think it should definitely be separated, or at least on the record, be separated.
What's each condition, all 7 or
No,
now that
just-
are 9? But that's what you're asking. I'm okay, I like my motion, it's been seconded. I think it's, language may be superfluous about, an item 2, but I don't think it's material to what we're doing here. he's perfected a second easement. He's agreed to move his commercial traffic to the Black Canyon Road. I'm okay with that. The neighbors know about it. If there's a problem, they'll enforce it. They'll deal with it. We really don't have ways to enforce this unless there's a complaint. So I put the language in there because I really feel like we owe the neighbors something, a condition that at least addresses it, because it wasn't addressed on the plat. It was addressed in the language outside of the plat. So we're trying to put it here. I think the intent is, I was out there for 2 hours and I didn't hear any chickens, and I was right next to the doors. I didn't smell anything. I don't think most of these people won't even see it. I think what he's doing here, I'm okay with this facility where it is.
Okay, so
so
there's a
am I,
motion
but I'm
on the
just
table.
saying
I'm
there's
gonna
a-
call for a vote.
Okay.
All those in favor of TK's motion, raise your hand.
I'm raising my hand.
You do?
Davis
Oh, and
said
David.
his hand was up.
Yes, I vote yes.
All right, motion passes.
Thank you.
So one thing, well, there's not many people here left. I'm glad you guys all came out for this. And you were noticed to do it and there was a hearing for it. Keep in mind that the county commissioners have proposed a land use code that does a lot of noticing, but the noticing does not include hearings like this. And so we hear a lot from the North Fork over the winter about the land use code, and a lot of people wanted to take away a lot of restrictions. But when it comes to somebody's backyard, those people do seem to like some of these restrictions. So get your neighbors involved in the land use code update, which is coming this fall. And they should come to the planning commission, they should come to the county commission meetings, and they should, whether they're in favor or not of hearings, they should get their voices in.
All right.
I have a question on that, if I may. Has there any proposed changes been made public yet?
Yes.
The draft,
The
red line draft
red line
is on.
draft.
I've poked around for a while,
If you,
and there wasn't
if you go to the
redacted.
planning department page, the land use, where the land use code is, let's see, I'm gonna get it right now.
But that could
The
change.
land use regulations page, which is deltacounty.gov/680/land-use-regulations, you can get there through the Delta County website. If you scroll down to the bottom of that page, the links,
You can have it up on your
there,
screen.
yeah, land use code links, this 2023 land use code red line is the draft version that they're working on right now. Are there any department updates that we need to hear about? Okay, any commissioner hey, Hardy, we're still in a meeting here. Any commissioner comments, requests, or referrals for next meeting?
We have a meeting next week.
We have
Next week is your available.
another hearing.
Yeah.
Okay,
So I got a question. Did you notify people in Montrose County too?
They did.
Yes.
Yeah, half a mile it goes into the county.
Sorry, we have a hearing next week. We don't necessarily know what it's about, so.
We haven't received the agenda packet yet.
Right.
Okay,
I'm gonna slow down.
all right, with that, meeting adjourned.
I have to, it's just crazy. You know, I started to notice more people on the road. I've got, yes.
We can gather these up for 'em.
Yes.